Oh, hello and welcome to another edition of Atlas Information Live. I'm your host, Atlas Alex, and today we are going to be hopefully experimenting with a bit of a new format. On the screen and in the chat is the link that you can use to come on and participate in the discussion. You can come on with audio or audio and video, and just the concept behind this shift is to try to see if we can evolve or shift the discussion from just largely me speaking for 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours, whatever the case may be, and answering questions that you have to type out, but rather make it more of an engaged conversation, a bit more of what you might see on a podcast or some other conversation that you might have in real life. Hopefully, a friend and colleague of mine will be joining us, although he might pop in whenever, I don't know. So, but in the meantime, anyone and everyone is welcome to use the link that's on the screen, or as I said, and it doesn't matter whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, because it's going to take you to StreamYards proper, right? So it doesn't matter. It's the same link. And yeah, feel free to put in that link and follow the instructions. And you should be able to come into the backstage area here, and then I'll add you to the live stream. Because the topic for today is about deception, and specifically how mediation begets deception. And we live in a world that, I mean, without question, is more mediated than ever before. How many of us rely on screens to get our information, to know what's happening in the world, to communicate with others, to stay in touch with friends and family around the world, and to try to stay on top of what's important to us and what we may feel is important in general. But also simple things like the weather. What should I wear today? And sort of everyday common sense things where we used to, I don't know, go outside and look up at the sky. Or we used to get together with friends and actually go out and sit down somewhere in a coffee shop or a restaurant or a park or in somebody's home. And instead, a great deal of that, not all, mind you, but a great deal of it has been shifted into this electronic format, including this live stream. I mean, and the search is on, if you will, for a way to differentiate what we do here together from every other live stream or podcast or that uses this technology. Is there a way that we can bring into it something that is more real, Now, that's not to say that any of this is scripted. I mean, I've gone on the record as saying that I do very little preparation in general for these live streams. I'm given a topic, I post the topic and the link to the live stream. But apart from that, I mean, I'm not reading from any notes, certainly. I'm not reading from a or a pre-prepared script. But still, there's still a talking head video aspect to it. And even though many other podcasts have guests on and they will ask them questions, and it seems like it's just a very natural banter going back and forth, I think you'll find that in practice, a lot of those questions are prepared ahead of time. And not only that, many of the guests are given the list of questions ahead of time so that they know how to prepare, or they are prepared to answer those on those specific topics. And it's a rather cynical approach. But having been briefly a part of the television radio broadcast industry, but for a very brief period of time, it was really a blip on my resume. Like no more than 18 months of my life, right? So barely 2 years, if that. The produced aspect of traditional media is one of the benchmarks by which we immediately can discern that what we are watching, what we are hearing, what we are being shown, what we are being told has been, to a large degree, carefully curated, planned, scripted, and certainly edited before we finally are able to watch it. Now, in the case of live productions, which most radio is live, so radio talk shows and so on is certainly live for the most part, at least it used to be. That may have changed somewhat now that we are in the era of, again, podcasts and Sirius satellite radio. You see, all of these technologies have allowed for what appears live to actually be pre-recorded, and is just, it may have been live at some point, but every time it gets played, it is presented as though it was live. This is a trick that the old sitcoms used to use. When, I don't know if you recall that when your favorite sitcom began, you would hear a voiceover, usually from one of the actors, telling you Cheers was filmed in front of a live studio audience. And the implication there is that what you are watching took place live. Even if it is recorded, you're not actually watching it live in real time, but that it was live at some point because it was recorded in front of a live studio audience. And if you recall, every sitcom had what we called a laugh track. The reality of that is that there may have been an audience, but the laugh track that you hear on your sitcom is not that audience. It's a canned laugh track. That's why we call it a laugh track. It was a professionally recorded laugh track of a audience of a specific size, and they just recorded several different versions of them laughing or cheering or clapping or whatever they do, and then you have multiple versions of it that you then use in the editing studio and you overlay. And there might have been a real audience there, and that audience might really have been laughing at certain points. But in the world of media, you can't leave anything to chance. Anything and everything that you can control, you will control. Because in the final product, the final outcome needs to be what is, in your view, the best it can possibly be, the most predictable, the most professional. And because after all, you want people to keep tuning in. So you leave nothing to chance. So what you find is in those sitcoms, despite the fact that it was filmed in front of a live studio audience, they still would film the scene multiple times. And they would end up using the best take. So what you see on television is not one continuous performance. It's not like they are filming a Broadway play where it's only one performance and they're capturing it from multiple angles, and that there's a real audience there, but the actors are there, and that it's basically all one long take. Obviously, that's not how television worked. Live studio audience or not. But the impression that they want you to have, the impression that they make, is that it really was spontaneous and continuous. And they, in many ways, they want you to lose yourself in the show in the same way that you would effectively lose yourself in a stage production as a member of the audience when you go to the opera or the theater. And the whole experience of it, the communal experience of live theater, is something very different than going to the cinema, or certainly very different than watching something on television. So the laugh track and the other tricks that they use is there to create a facsimile. And that's all part of the mediation. It's part of the nature of the media itself, the medium, in other words. And the word medium means middle. That's all it means. In mathematics, the median is the middle value. But from a communication standpoint, median is essentially the middleman, or we could say the messenger. But it's not just the messenger, it is also the message. The famous linguist and you might even say philosopher, Marshall McLuhan, he was the Canadian intellectual who coined the phrase, "the medium is the message." And what he meant by that was you cannot separate out the message from the messenger, or the message from the medium. That the medium itself conditions what is being conveyed. It alters it in some way. And in many respects, what is being conveyed is somehow compromised, because you must make compromises in order for the medium itself to be at its most effective. And this is why I began with that sitcom example, and why I mentioned how in podcasts it may appear like you are witnessing some form of spontaneous conversation between individuals, and it also will seem like when you watch Joe Rogan or Trigonometry or any of the podcasts and YouTube interview format videos where the host makes it seem like that they are tremendous fans of their guest. And they will talk about how, oh, I've read your latest book, I think it's fantastic, or I've read all your books, or, oh, I remember discovering you back in this and that and the other thing, blah, 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 blah. If you do your due diligence at all and listen to how the host will introduce a guest in this way, and it seems like that they're longtime friends or associates or colleagues or fans or whatever the case may be, very often, almost word for word, or at least if not word for word, beat for beat, these introductions are taken right from Wikipedia. Nowadays, because they use AI instead of relying on Wikipedia, they can get some more variability. But depending on the AI they use, you can generate almost the same beat for beat curriculum vitae that the host is reading from, or that has prepared in advance in order to introduce their guest. What you also don't see when you watch these podcasts is the crews behind the scenes. You don't see the multiple cameras. You don't see the teleprompters that are feeding this curriculum vitae, the talking points and the questions to the hosts. What you also don't see, or probably don't know, is that 99 times out of 100, those guests are paying to be there. They were not invited onto that podcast because the hosts are great fans and wanted to speak to them again. No. The agents and or publishers and or whatever organizations are behind that particular individual that's being interviewed, they have a publicist, they have a PR team, they have an entire marketing engine behind them, and whatever it is that they are promoting at this particular moment in their life. The reason why they're on that podcast, to be able to talk about their latest book, their latest film, their latest research, their whatever, what have you, or the, whatever the case may be. There are agencies that you sign up for and you pay money to, just like any other talent agent or PR firm or publicist. And these agencies, for a fee, will try to get you on various different podcasts. And depending on how bankable you are as a guest, i.e., what is your social media outreach, how many people follow you on X or on Facebook or on Instagram, the podcasts can make some sort of calculation and say, oh, that's that's so and so. Wow, he's really making a buzz. He's got over 200,000 people on his X, and there's a buzz around his new book, or there's a buzz around his new film or his new album or whatever. Yeah, okay. Let's get them on our podcast, because we can leverage that we can get some of those 200,000 of their followers to come and watch our podcast. This is the metric that is going on in the background. This is what's really driving the fact that you may have noticed this when you are using YouTube, let's say, and the algorithm is presenting videos to you, and all of a sudden someone you may or may not be familiar with, but let's say you're familiar with them, pops up and ends up on trigonometry or well, certainly Joe Rogan. But Joe Rogan is the hardest podcast to get onto. It's the most watched podcast in the world, has something like 25 million subscribers, and so it is the most difficult one to get on, i.e. the most expensive and the most exclusive. So you can only get on there if you have the type of PR and marketing team and a big publisher and all this huge marketing machine behind you. But you may notice that, let's say Mr. Smith, right? Professor Smith ends up on one podcast. And you may watch it, you may not, but you take note of it. And then in the next 7 days, or maybe 2 weeks, you notice that Professor Smith shows up on another podcast, and another, and another, and another, and another. So for a while, maybe even a month, you keep seeing this Professor Smith character popping up over and over and over and over and over again. And then he vanishes. You stop seeing him. You stop hearing about him. Why is that? If he was such a compelling guest, surely it would make sense for him to keep doing the rounds and so on and so forth. But if you watch any of the shows, then you'll notice that that Professor Smith is promoting a book. And so for the month that you see him, it's all paid promotion. All of those appearances are paid promotions. So this is perfect timing. I can introduce you to my friends and colleagues. That's Wolfgang Amalung and Murphy Lee. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
So
I think it's good.
We just got here, so we missed some of what you were saying, but we'll see if we can just catch up quickly.
It's you arrived at a perfect time. I was just talking about mediation and how the media is the message, and just giving everybody a bit of a background as to how fake YouTube is in general, and how all of these podcasts that make it, all of these guests on these podcasts, the hosts of those podcasts make it sound like that they're good friends and fans, that they've been following their work for years, and that oh, we're so happy that you're finally on our podcast. Meanwhile, in the background, they're publicists and an entire marketing team that paid money in order for that guest to end up on that podcast.
Yeah,
it's an engine. It's a business. It's the same. It's traditional media. It's the same engine that was behind traditional media. It's just migrated into this new media space. And I felt it. Go ahead.
I was going to only offer, that's really great what you're saying. It's in a larger pattern of everything that's unfolding in many different areas. Talk about Iran, you talk about the war, and you talk about kinetic war and this other generation warfare. You're talking about the same pattern, the same kind of thing. It's just happening everywhere, I think. So let's go deeper into what you're saying about that particular side of it.
Well, because at the end of the day, what we're talking about today is deception.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what are the mechanics of deception?
Yeah.
Because we often we might take it for granted, right? That deception is like there are many different kinds of deception to begin with, right? Like
Right.
and so, and as you point out, deception, because and I was, this is before you arrived, I was saying earlier, so much of what we perceive these days, we perceive through some kind of screen.
Yes.
And if we perceive it through some kind of screen, 99 times out of 100, whatever we're perceiving has been planned, produced, scripted, edited, or modified in some way, or now with AI, completely fabricated.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So and because Wolfgang, you and I have talked about this many times, some of the most insidious kinds of deception are the ones where it's 90% truth or 99% truth.
Now it's
So they don't
99.
even have to they don't even have to change much, do they? They don't have they don't have to cut out much.
But you know what? It's evolving to 99.9%. It's gone on next level generation, call it, right? That's the nature of complexity, is to go that direction, right? We're always behind it, trying to keep up with it.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I just saw something earlier today where they were showing, I don't know if it was real or fake, because you, again, it's so hard to know these days because anybody can use AI to generate almost anything. But they had a picture of Bill Gates at the World Economic Forum, and he was wearing his 33-degree Mason robes, you know,
Yeah,
his grand
yeah,
Masonic robes, and
yeah.
the headline was like, they're not even trying to hide it anymore.
I
It's like they're
know.
shoving it in our face. And I'm like, okay. And then you got to stop and you say, is someone just trolling me with this AI generated thing of Bill Gates in the World Economic Forum? Because in a way, the sentiment
Yeah,
is true,
yeah.
but they're not quite there yet.
Okay,
They're,
you're
you know,
raising a really interesting flexion point here, and that is now this thing of intuitive discernment and conscious discernment, right? Like, when do we get to that level of discernment, that refinement of discernment, where it goes to consciously be able to do that, where we can know, be more in the knowing of what we're discerning? I don't know if that's valid yet. I think we're moving in that direction, though.
well, it depends on how strong the intuition is, right? Because intuition is knowing.
Okay, one
It's
thing I
only a
just,
question of how strong your intuition is,
you know what I said to
right?
Murphy? You tell me if I'm right or wrong. I said, here's what I'm going to say: 90% of intuition is dark, 1% moves toward consciousness. The rest is unconsciousness. And what it does is it's constantly, like science says, we learn from our mistakes. So it's constantly creating obstacles to overcome in that 99% belief. And it's intuitive, but it's kind of always creating, like Murphy's Law. What can go wrong will go wrong constantly. Once you get to that 1% of intuition, it starts to transform into you. It has to be a conscious kind of connection that immediately, as the intuition, there's an awareness, a conscious awareness of that place. It's a refinement. It's not the lower emotional level of intuition, and there's different levels within it, but we have to get right out of the 99% and move into that high element of the intuition.
I'll add this because there's this element that we're in right now where anything is or everything is possible, right? We look at the AI, we look at the deception. We see
yes.
we see the video of Bill Gates, right? He's like, oh, I don't know if he's joking. I don't know what. The point is, it's all possible. And within that possibility, 99% of it doesn't mean anything because it's not all put together yet to bring in that 1%, which is everything, that's the next level of observation and consciousness and what you call intuition, but at a higher level of intuition. It's not just I have a feeling this is right or this is wrong. It's I have this intuition that all this is being brought together and anything is possible to make your own observation of the scenario be in flow of how everything is possible, anything is, and not as like one big deal. It's not a conclusion. It's I have more information to work with now.
Yeah, I think so.
Let me, Benjamin has a comment here. Let me read it out. He says,
Yeah.
To strengthen our intuition, we need to cultivate greater awareness and consciousness through practices such as meditation. Reading the Holy Scripture also helps refine and deepen our understanding, just as iron sharpens iron.
I think that's right. I think that's
So-
valid. But those are step 1 and 2. Those are white belt and orange belt. Yes. But at some point we need to discard those and move into a higher, more refined process, the next level, the next, like brown belt, we need to move in the higher, as we get to that refinement point. We can't get to the refinement point from white belt. Perfect what he said. 100% right and correct.
That's interesting, because
Yeah.
because if you actually speak to any black belts,
Yes.
they will tell you that they practice the basics every single day.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's never the top of the
elements. There's certain elements within white belt that need to be discarded. The basics are the basics, right? Once you have the basics really, really in your system, like once I know dancing, I don't need to go back to the basics. They're just the basics are the basics. I don't need to practice.
No, but you take for granted that they are there inside of you.
Yes.
You don't need the feet and the dotted lines on the floor.
Yes.
Okay. But
yes.
But the basic step is there. You can't tango without the fundamental foundation of the tango in everything that you do.
It has
You
to
can't
be
discard it because it's not a tango anymore.
It has to be totally ingrained within your psyche.
But but you see, it's
Yes.
as fundamental to the dance as humidity is to water.
I totally agree with you on every level. Only thing I'm saying is that I don't need to practice it at all.
So-
Not once you get to a certain place of knowing, and it's in your.
Yeah, but
I don't
you know
need
what?
to practice basic German. I just speak German.
I think every person understands exactly what you're saying. And
Yes.
the idea to bring forward is how are we being grateful to the things that we're doing, right? And that kind of goes down to, again, doing the basics, right? Being appreciative of the fact that, Bruce Lee does one kick 10,000 times, right? And when that comes into a real fight where he has to do that, he's not going to kick him 10,000 times. He's going to be grateful that he did those 10,000 kicks and bring that into the space. But he's not doing 10,000 kicks onto the guy. Hopefully, I'm saying that with comments with scriptures, iron, that's not going to be what's brought onto the table when the thing happens. It's the gratefulness.
This is the key.
That it's brought forward.
But this is the key. What Murphy's saying is absolutely key. The key is when push comes to shove, when he's in the ring and he's in a sparring match, Bruce Lee will never try to kick or throw the punch that he practiced 1,000 times.
Right.
That's not why he practiced it 1,000 times, to try to repeat that exact punch. That's not what the practice was for. The practice was the foundation so that the fundamental foundations of and the essence of punch is now just a part of him. So he doesn't even have to think about punch anymore. And however he throws it and however it lands is completely and totally unique to the situation and the circumstances. He cannot. So this is what I'm saying about you and dancing, right? Number one, you're dancing. It's not martial arts. In other words, it's it's not trophies and lives depending on it. But the point is that embedded. So think of it like a pyramid, right? The top of the pyramid. Once you get to the top of the pyramid, you cannot avoid the fact that the heights of the pyramid is achieved only by virtue of the 10,000 blocks at the base.
Right.
That's where the pyramid gets its strength and its solidity, right?
But also,
that doesn't mean that at the top of the pyramid you do 10,000 blocks, because that's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
But it's a part of you, right?
But I think a lot of like the Bruce Lee doing the basics has also to do to some extent with his physical body, right? To get his physical body to make sure that he doesn't forget that basic. Okay, so that's part of it. But the other part of it is to keep the physical body in shape. But if you're older and no amount of keeping your physical body in shape is going to really help anymore. So you're in this place where, okay, I'm going to practice this to remember it. But it's so ingrained that you don't need to practice it. It's like speaking German. I don't need to. So I want to improve my German. I have to go to Orange Belt. I have to forget about the basics because the basics are totally covered. I'm not going to divert any energy there anymore. I'm going to divert it. So how can I speak like a German in Germany? Because I'm here in Canada and I'm not going to speak as fluently as they there. One is go over to Germany and talk to some Germans. But there is also a way to move up and get myself to speak better here. But certainly it's going to have something to do with talking to somebody. I can't just do it in my own head to improve my German.
Yeah, so I think
experience, right? It's experience.
Let me get a comment here from Benjamin. He says, yes, I think that once someone has truly mastered a skill, many actions can eventually be formed almost unconsciously. This is what he's saying here is what you call unconscious competence, Wolfgang. Like driving, where experience allows responses to become natural and intuitive. Our intuition can develop in a similar way. Through continuous practice, awareness, and reflection, we gradually refine it and learn to trust and strengthen it over time.
Okay. But the only thing I would say is, yes, that's the progression through this place. Now I'm saying, how do you get to that 1%? You almost need to, again, everything he said, turn that into unconscious competence, because you move beyond even that in order to get to that 1%. And to get to the refinement, it's a process moving to that place. So you have to forget about the other stuff, but it pulls you back down to its level.
Yeah. So what I'm just I think it's, as usual, it's a problem with the language and the expression here. When you say you got to forget about the other stuff,
well, you don't. You're right.
You're conflating two things.
Yeah.
You're conflating the process of the white belt
Yes.
with the learning that was achieved through the
Learning that.
process.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you discard the process because
Yes.
you level up. You get to a different level, and so of course your process is going to be different. But you don't, quote, forget the basics and throw them away.
Totally agree.
Everything that you do is building on those foundations.
Okay, so let me put it this way, in terms of your language, right? When I speak of this construct, temporary construct,
Sure.
of unconscious competence, right?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of begs this issue of forgetting so that it can be unconscious. But it's not. It's another level of consciousness. It's just not in the conscious doing of the remembering. The remembering is like handled. Okay, that's unconscious competence. So you go to another level of what I call like omni. It's not multitasking, it's omnitasking. It's another level, higher vibrational frequency of not in it so much, and another level, higher degree of closer to not of it while still being in it. Okay, because how else are you going to say it? Like the word unconscious competence just doesn't work in terms of language.
I say it this way: you shift from doing to being. You shift from doing to being done.
I agree. Yeah, being done. Yes, exactly what I'm.
Okay? That's what happens.
But I'm saying it in a
you shift from doing to being done. That's what mastery is.
Yes. Okay.
Mastery is now whatever you spent your lifetime mastering. You get to a point where now your inner mastery moves you, as opposed to you doing it. You're done by it.
Okay. So listen for 1 second, and I want to say this: perfect, 100%. You've encapsulated it. What I've done is I've got you to say what you said, or I've helped get you to say what you said. And we've demonstrated the energy of getting there. Now you said, well, that's what it is. And I go, 100% agree. But it isn't, because it's the getting there that it is. The process, in this case, that. But just to say that's it isn't going to help anybody, because it's static. It's just a place.
So Benjamin says, I think that level of intuition can be best described as ultra instinct.
All right. I call it omni. I agree perfectly. Good wording. Other words, I love it.
So it's weird. I mean, in my opinion, ultra instinct is a little too much about the speed of things. Being like, instinct is fast, right? Ultra instinct is faster, right? And in my opinion, what we need to go is beyond ultra instinct and be in a place of multi-locality. We want to be at many places at the same time.
Yes. Next step, next level. Yeah. 100%.
Like, I think about when you have the ultra instinct that you're dodging bullets, you're doing things like the Matrix, and then you're throwing one punch and knocking the guy across the room, right? Yeah. It's like, why you got to be that one person not across the room when you got 10,000 of you in one place?
Yeah.
All doing it all sides, making them fly to nowhere land, whatever, right? Ultra instinct's too freaking scientific, a little bit too slow in this case, even though it seems to appear to be very fast. And it allows yourself to be, well, a little bit controlled or a little bit possessed by something else outside of yourself. And that's okay to some degree, but at least put yourself in a place, and I'm being a little extreme here, being put at a place where you're allowing yourself to be within yourself while doing that, not just, relying on that instinct.
Right. Or that intuition. Yeah.
So then, in this context, where does deception come in?
Well, deception comes in
the 99% intuition that we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, right? If we're talking about deception, the ultra instinct is part of that deception, right?
Yeah.
Not to say that it's not valid. What he said about the next level being ultra instinct is very valid. And I think there's a powerful, powerful place where ultra instinct would defeat and destroy 99% of what's out there. But what's out there isn't where we want to be. What's out there is already handled because past ultra instinct is non-locality. It's being at a million places at the same time. Why fight it? Why have this instinct tell you anything when you already have that thing out there? It's being.
Yeah. That last 1% of intuition moves to this other place. Yes.
But I'm not doubting the fact that all this stuff is happening in the world where we refine the process to the basics and reaching the level of instinct and intuition isn't valid. It's very good. We need it because that's how we bring ourselves to do things here. And not because we also want to evolve and transcend. So we work with both because that's the challenge that we're here for. Well, not the full challenge, but it's part of the challenge. And as long as we know that, the ultra instinct that he calls it will develop itself to be even better. And that's where I think
well, it's like self-organizing. That whole 99% is like, in a sense, self-organizing, right? Like that's life, how life works. It has to be 99% of it in order to create something new, something different, to be in its complexity and constantly changing and becoming more and more complex. It's built in. And once that is incorporated 100% on the right path instead of the path of the demiurge, then in that last 1%, you don't have to guard it. You're free to move there in consciousness. And there's like you've said, there's always the chance to fall. That's
right.
Always there. But there are so many safeguards already in place just so that you can operate there. Because you won't be able to until the safeguards are all in place, which is everything you're talking about now.
Right.
Those are the safeguards we're working on. All the deception that we've created for ourselves, AI and all the rest of it, that's what we have to look at. I agree. I think that's what this talk was about, right?
Benjamin says, I think at that level, a person becomes so deeply aware and conscious that deception can hardly affect them anymore. It's almost like an angelic state of awareness, both admirable and a little intimidating in its depth.
100% right on. That's
right.
Exactly.
It's really,
and you know, it can. You have to be careful there. It's like what's said. It's easy to fall from that place real quick.
Right. And in my place, I feel like it's more and more about letting go of guarding. And when you're letting go of guarding things you
become more dangerous.
More dangerous, more vulnerable.
Yes,
and
more vulnerable.
Being able to deal with that can be very difficult because like you're not gonna, maybe you won't have $1 million, maybe you won't be able to have $1 million kind of feeling.
In another completely different terminology, you would say, I'm opening my heart. No blocks. I'm toughening my ability to be more open, more heartfelt, more open. That's on another way of saying it, the same thing. Completely different perspective or angle to speak about it. Because just to talk about it heart open, I mean, that's old shit, right? Like it's not enough. So we need to talk about it the way we were talking about it to get a more comprehensive understanding of saying, well, you open your heart more, right? So it gives it, yeah.
Kill the Hive Mind. Hello and welcome. That's a new face and a new name.
I like Kill the Hive Mind.
He says, meditation is a relaxation tool. If you want to make it a spiritual practice, go for it. For me, it's about peace. It's nothing sinister.
Yeah. I agree. I do, because to me, a lot of the meditation is a ritual, and it's a little too slow. It's like we're
You know
already
what?
someplace
I
a
do have.
little more, and we can just say peace, right? And the whole thing kicks in. The whole meditative process can kick in with that.
You know, I do have a question. I guess you could ask the chat, and I'll ask you as well. To what degree do you all think, including you too, Attila, that we're always or in the potential of always being in meditation? Because if we're relaxed to everything, to the deception, to the awakening, to the consciousness, all that, are we always in meditation, or are we just, you know,
Not
going
always.
with the whatever, with the state of being swept by everything? So, I want to know what it is that you guys think about that. I get the feeling that it has to do with not not having any of that happen, because that isn't what the true meditation is about. Because what we want to go towards when we talk about meditation is, yes, the relaxing, but it's about being the, how do you say, the integration of everything relaxing. Meditation is being the part of whatever that is and relaxing it. But being part of everything that's relaxing takes on a different level. But I still want to hear what you have to think about, your own opinions about what it means to be meditation in relaxing amongst everything that's happening, not just the single moment.
Well, not to put too fine a point on it, for me, meditation is mediation with a cross in it.
Okay.
So now that cross is the Christ,
Yeah.
right? So it's divine mediation.
Yes.
That's what meditation is.
Okay.
It's
I
precisely so it's the
That's
opposite
right.
of deception.
Yeah. And you don't necessarily need to go through the whole ritual, which is a preparation. If you can get there, you go there, right where you said. I agree.
Yeah, but as you said, there are levels, right? So there's white belt and
Yeah,
orange belt.
exactly. Yes.
Okay, so and then to be honest with you, most white belts, most people who think that they're meditating, they never even reach
And
a
yes,
point of meditation.
can I make an additional comment? In the quickening that we're in, there's going to be more and more people getting stuck in white belt, right? So it's kind of like you need to move through a little quicker because we're in the quickening. You can't linger. You can, but
No, I don't know about that, because
all
right,
right.
we are, in a sense, we are in the quickening, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about deception. Who's talking about deception before, or not, whatever, right? People are talking about, manipulation, all that stuff, but the deception was never as crazy as it is now, and that's, yes, I agree. In that case, that's the quickening, and part of what's happening here is when we look at how to navigate through that. And the way you talk about meditation and people being stuck at a white belt, it's like the meditation is trying to work with deception, and like that's kind of the wrong way to do it. But a lot of people will be stuck there, and I think that's what the point is right now: is that we can't bog and bother ourselves too much in white belt, because white belt is like working with deception, and that's a little bit like too much into it. You're just too much work.
Yeah, well, navel gazing, or it's a trap that takes you round and round and round, and so it's just because you're going round there doesn't mean you automatically break out of it. There's a mechanism to kick you out of it, yes, right, but that's kind of like unconscious, you know, unconscious competence perhaps, or it's just mechanical. Even a mechanical process, well, if it goes around enough times, it'll kick you out. Like, I guess, Not
Okay,
necessarily.
I'm going to put that on the screen because it's just to let people know that they can come on and
Okay.
spare their fingers here. Benjamin says, relaxation is a prerequisite for meditation, and meditation serves as an opening of the heart and mind, a gateway to deeper awareness and understanding. And Mutaga says, the spirit is the breath of God, so conscious breathing makes one a bit more aware of his spirit. In other
Yeah.
words, both Benjamin and Mutaga are saying that in order to enter into a state of meditation, which is really opening oneself up and as much as possible quieting down uh, the lower self or the busyness of the inferior mind, and if you can slow those winds and stop those winds from blowing across the surface of the mind, then
Yes.
the surface of the mind will settle down and will be eventually it will
Yeah.
become like a polished mirror. And
Okay.
if you've ever seen a mountain lake like
Yes.
that's perfectly still,
Yes.
it is a perfect reflection of the heavens.
Okay. I
And
100% agree.
that's really what we're talking about. And there are many different ways that people, and you say ritual, Wolfgang, but it's not necessarily a ritual. It can just be an anchor, like Mutaga
Yes.
says, the breath, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
relaxation, or it can be a mantra, it can be a prayer, it can be anything
Okay.
that
So
works for somebody to just remind them
yeah.
that it's like, it's like tuning your radio to the right frequency, the right radio station.
Okay. And I get that. So in
It's
the
not
quickening.
necessarily, it's not a, it doesn't have to be a ritual, like it could just be
No.
a,
Okay.
a practice, a technique, right?
What I am given to say is this. And I've talked about, my nature is more shamanic and trickster and this and that and the other. And
Mm-hmm.
and there's this word that comes up we've talked about before, is called shifting. Okay, what I'm given to say or offer or suggest is that in the quickening, there's going to be less opportunity or time to slow it down. Just it's going to have to be shrunk. So that's where shifting comes in. If you can shift from one busy to what you're describing in meditation, and if it can be instantaneous, that's where we want to get to as quickly as we can, okay, in order to move up in that ultra refinement of the intuition in towards consciousness. We can't be you know like in that sweet old time of relaxing ourselves. We just have to be able to let go of all that and just move. Okay, but you can't force that on yourself. You just have to sort of not make such a big thing about relaxing and just find a way to do it. Like, I don't know, maybe you can use a trigger word just to boom trigger, get yourself to do it instantly. I don't know.
I think now that we're talking about it, that meditation is almost perfect towards everything that's being said right now, because what we're want to really move towards is to a place of experience. We want to be able to have a higher level of experience and consciousness and awareness being brought forward from that. And meditation pulls all that together so that you can have that happen. And being able to do that and then move forward and move around and keep going and keep having more experiences show up is the ultimate form of meditation. Not just always bringing things in, but to be able to have more experiences show up as things are being brought in. So that's the ultimate level of meditation, or at least one step up from current meditation that a lot of people I think are stuck at or are trying to achieve.
Yeah, like to me, what I think you're saying is, rather than being focused on my development and my looking out at the universe and connecting with my innermost. It's more of a larger field, a larger, higher, more than you, a bigger you kind meditation level. Does that make any sense?
It makes sense. I think larger than me is always going to be there when you're meditating. So
Yes,
that's why
yes.
it works. Again, it's very powerful in the sense that people, even when people watch others meditate, they think they're going to this really holy place, right? If I see a monk meditating, I'm like, wow, he's really, really spiritual, or he's really, really going beyond himself in that space. And there's something about that where it has an effect on people. And you don't want to do that if you're the one meditating. You want to be able to have it move them rather than being in effect to them. So that's where the next level of meditation exists, with the shifting and moving around and playing with it.
Well, and I agree with everything you're saying. I think, though, that I think maybe Attila, you alluded to it, that a lot of people think they're doing meditation, but they're doing a kind of self-hypnosis, and it starts to move more in on a me kind of focus that moves it away from what meditation truly is. Does that say anything to you, Attila?
Well, certainly a lot of people who do meditation on that basis makes meditation a very egoic
Yes.
activity, because they're trying to get something out of it, and it's all they want to claim their power, or they want to make a connection, or they want to have an experience, or they want, in other words,
Yes.
if we can right, this is the I, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Or we could say it's it's me. This is
Yeah.
the mortal, right? This is the one who quote meditates, right?
Yeah.
And does the rituals and the tricks and the tactics. Here's the
Yeah.
thing, though. When they say, and what you were saying earlier about connecting to something bigger and playing with it and working with it and doing this, and it's not just about your innermost being, it's this bigger thing, broader thing. If I drew that, it would be something like this, right? You know what I mean? Like
The way you're
this
describing,
lens, or
yes,
you know what I
yes.
mean?
But that
Okay.
lens connects into my innermost, so they're one and the same. And,
Okay. All right. Now, but that what I drew there is not meditation, and is not going to get anybody anywhere,
that's right.
because what you are now describing is the actual mechanics of it, which I'm now going to draw.
Okay.
Because whatever is the mind, or the consciousness of this I, this me down at this level, must be focused.
Yes.
It must go through, we might call this a 0 point.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
This point where it crosses, that can then get to the all, right? The everything.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. The alpha and the omega. This 0 point.
Yeah.
This. Okay. This is the consciousness.
Yeah.
Of being, of the being.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So there is no such thing as meditation without this crossing, without the 0 point. There is no true meditation without your being. There is no I who meditates.
No, I agree.
This is a deception.
Okay, that's a good example, and I was trying to get exactly at that. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why most people don't actually
Yes.
meditate, because, you know, they're trying to do this,
Okay. Yeah.
right? They're,
Yeah.
they're, they're, they're trying to get it themselves. It's like you said, this is where their focus is.
Yes. Okay, so let me say one thing. Right where the 0 point is, when you really center yourself in that place, it's amazing how wide that that upper circle gets. It gets huge.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, we're on the
Well,
same
this is the
page.
alpha
Yeah.
and the omega.
Yeah.
This is
But at the
all.
same
This
time,
is this is infinity. This is infinity here.
yeah.
That's the potential.
Yes, 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 yes. We're in the same
Okay.
place. So let me ask you about the lower part of the act. Does that represent my innermost, or because I mean the outer is the inner?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
This is your innermost.
Okay. Okay. All
Okay.
right. Yeah,
This
yeah.
is the mortal
Ah,
vessel.
all right.
Okay. This is
Yeah.
the I. This is the me,
Okay,
right?
okay, okay. Yeah, yeah,
This is the person sitting down to do the quote ritual
yeah.
of meditation.
Okay. So, so,
But
so
you see,
there's
the whole this activity, most people, this
yeah,
is the hardest part for them, is
yeah,
this bottom triangle is
yeah.
focusing and getting them
Okay.
to forget this part
Yeah.
altogether. And what
Okay.
this part wants, the desires to have an experience, or
Do you
like
know
you say, the desire for an epiphany, the desire for awakening, the
so,
desire for knowledge, the
right.
desire to get something out of meditation, because
Yeah.
this self, this I, this me, cannot exist on the other side of that 0 point.
Okay. All right. So let me say what's going on here is I realize, holy shit, um, that more difficult lower part, I forgot about it. I forgot because I
Yeah,
don't
because
I
you're a black belt. You're not a white belt. You're not an
okay,
orange belt.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
Okay,
I'm
but
really sorry. Yeah.
Wolfgang, I don't want to belabor the point, but this
No.
is why what we say and how we say it is so important, because earlier you said, "No, but you discard all the basics." But this is the basic. This is the foundation of
Yeah.
meditation.
Yeah.
If you forget that,
Yeah.
then you're in big trouble.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It's good to sort of remember that. Yeah, I did have to go through all of that, but I can't do it anymore because it's handled.
I think that
I
goes
can't
back.
make myself do it, right? So there's a kind of a
But it
pushing
doesn't
away.
mean it's not being done.
I
Of,
100%
of
agree.
course, of
I
course.
100% agree. No,
Right.
this is
Right?
good. This is good. It's very good.
We all have to do these things because that's how you gain experience, and that's what brings us to
So
have
so
everything we
can
want.
I say how I mitigate some of that in how I speak? Remember, I talk about talking gibberish and and speaking without words and communicating in this other way. That's how I
Yep.
mitigate that, because my words screw it up, because I'm disruptive. I'm trying to get them to move across by being disruptive, and it's kind of, oh, it's my way, and I'm sorry for my way. But if I can do it without trying to be too intellectual about it, then I find myself being very successful with the way I do it. Okay. Now, if we're going to analyze the words, you're going to say, well, that's a bunch of gibberish. And I more than agree with that. I'm 100%, I'm not going to write a book. I don't want to write a book. If I was to write a book, I couldn't be writing down gibberish. It wouldn't work. I don't think. If somebody wrote gibberish in a book, like Nietzsche writes gibberish a lot, what he writes, I can read that book and read through it. Personally have no problem with that. Most people can't read Nietzsche because he's contradicting himself. He's repeating himself. To me, that speaks 100% my language, right? And maybe I learned to do what I did by reading a lot of Nietzsche. And I have people going, that guy's nuts. He's crazy, right? So, things present themselves. You call them serendipity. They present themselves when you're ready, and they prepare you along the way, right? It's like we're blessed,
So the point here is, remember Murphy or Benjamin said that I think that at that level, a person becomes so deeply aware and conscious that deception can hardly affect them anymore.
Right.
I always like to repeat, like I'm a broken record, that even if you read the Book of Enoch, right? It's stories of angels falling, right?
Yes.
There and we and my goal, one of my goals for today's live stream was to be able to demonstrate that the forces of deception are always perfectly matched to our level of consciousness.
Right on.
Which means the higher level you go, believe me, angels and masters and cosmo creators, they are facing an adversary who has a power of deception that we mortals cannot even begin to comprehend.
100% right. That's why we should not judge, right? Exactly.
Well, why we should not judge, and B, we should never become complacent.
Absolutely. 100% correct.
And so this is where this whole discussion around meditation is so important, and not meditation, the ritual, but as you said, Wolfgang, and what Murphy has been saying, what everybody's been saying, is this real-time presence, this mindful, this self-observation, this real-time be meditation, in this beingness of meditation all the time. Why? Because the forces of deception are always coming and trying to
100%
to deceive us.
100% agree. So the way I've constructed a way to open a door for handling it, I have referred to that as the observation of myself observing myself. That's the crack and opening to that ability to manage that. It's still dangerous. He said it's ultra, right? And he's saying it's very dangerous. Yes, because it's new territory. The observation of yourself, observing yourself, is really new territory. You're really moving into no time, which is like, what the hell is that? How do you move through that? Right? And fluidity is, again, it's a step toward that place. But we have opened a crack. We have to open a crack right now. It's really important. It's really important. Or that lower observation level will not complete. It gets more and more dangerous because we need the crack and opening. If we do that, it'll move itself through, and we're kind of protected because we do diligence. We're doing diligence by doing so. And it doesn't fix anything. It doesn't guarantee anything. There's no guarantee, right?
With on that note, there's something that because you said some key words here: observing yourself, or being in observation of yourself, observing yourself,
right?
And so, in other words, but this is, if we wanted to use a different word to describe that process, or at least if we wanted a word that gave us a kind of umbrella term, that normies could understand, we would say that process is part of a whole family of conscious activity that we could call introspection.
Yes.
right? The looking within, and not
Yes.
just the looking within, but being conscious of oneself looking
Yes.
within.
Yes.
Now, on that note, I would like to share something. This is an interview that was done with a fellow whose last name is Anderson. He is a billionaire. And I just
Yeah.
want to play this. This is from Matt Walsh's show. We can get into Matt Walsh's reactions, but I don't think it's necessary. It's the interview
Right.
that I'm worried about. You guys tell me if you can't hear it.
Yeah.
Don't have any levels of introspection.
Yes, zero, as little as possible.
Why?
Move forward, go. Yeah,
Wow.
I don't know. I found people who dwell in the past get stuck in the past. It's a real problem, and it's a problem at work and it's a problem at home.
So I've read obviously
Wow.
410 biographies of history-based entrepreneurs,
Yep.
and that was one of the most surprising things. Like, what's the most surprising thing that you've learned from this? So like, oh, they have little or zero introspection.
Yep.
Like Sam Walton didn't wake up thinking about his internal self. He just woke up. He's like, I like building Walmart. I'm going to keep building Walmart. I'm going to make more Walmarts, and just kept doing it over and over again.
And you probably know, if you go back before 100 years ago, it never would have occurred to anybody to be introspective. Like, it's the whole idea of, I mean, just all of the modern conceptions around introspection and therapy and all the things that kind of result from that are, kind of manufactured in the 1910s, 1920s.
Say more about that.
Great men of history didn't sit around doing this stuff at any prior point, right? It's all a new construct. It was so first Western civilization had to kind of invent the concept of the individual, right? Which was like a new concept, several hundred years ago. And then for a long time it was, all right, the individual runs, right, and like does all these things and builds things and builds empires and builds companies and builds technology and does all these things. And then kind of this kind of guilt-based whammy kind of showed up from Europe, a lot of it from Vienna, 1910s, 1920s, Freud, and all that entire movement, and kind of turned all that inward and basically said, okay, now we need to basically second guess the individual. We need to criticize the individual. The individual needs to self-criticize. Right, the individual needs to feel guilt, needs to look backwards, needs to dwell on the past. It never resonated with me.
Okay.
Guy's a magician, right? Could be a black magician.
That fellow is a multi-billionaire.
Yeah, but he's applied all of this stuff to the physical kinetic reality.
Is that really what you think is happening here?
No, because it also can exist on an elevation of the inner development and consciousness itself, right? It's the interplay between the in it but not of it. So to what degree is he not of it, right? Because if he's just in it, then he's a black magician.
Well, he doesn't know, because he does no introspection.
Okay, all right. I think
So-
that tells you something. I can't judge where he is. My gut feeling is a little bit he's on the dark side. Just the energy I
Yeah, a
see.
little bit.
There's
little bit.
always
Yeah,
something
yeah.
about these people who, I guess in this case, I feel that he's just speaking a little too fast. He's moving things
Well,
forward.
you just did it fast, right? So he's an opportunist, right? And that's entropy.
Earlier, Benjamin used a word that I didn't say anything at the time,
Right?
but I'm going to bring it up now.
Sure.
I think we just witnessed someone who follows what we could call ultra instinct,
Yeah. Okay.
because he's instinctual. What is an
Yeah.
instinct? Now I'm going to take this off the screen. Forgive me, Benjamin, only because you have equated intuition with instinct. And
I know, that's
I would simply say that those two things are completely polar opposites of each other.
I 100% agree. I got the feeling too, and I didn't say anything either. Yeah. But
I didn't want to derail the discussion, right? Because I'm trying to turn over a new leaf, and this is an ecosystemic
Right.
approach to this program, and it's not just about me talking, right?
But it's good that we can fall back on it now, right? Now's the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
But see here, I think we are witnessing somebody who is like, he's ultra instinctive. Now, when you observe yourself and you
Yes.
observe the difference between instinct
Yes.
and intuition,
Yes.
You know that instinct is completely 100% mechanical.
Exactly.
Right.
And that kind of a putting yourself in it, which is what I mentioned earlier, is what gives you powerful success. But it doesn't mean that you can't be this dark person who can't then all of a sudden, I'm still saying that he could just put that aside, like, because he did that. Now he can transcend that. It's an obstacle for his own overcoming. He's made a big obstacle because it's really hard. It's so enticing. It's easier for a rich man to get to heaven than a camel to pass through the eye of the needle. That's it. Perfect example of that, right? And we got to say, but I can't say. Maybe the camel will go through the eye of the needle, and that's easier than we really think it is. Like, easier or not easier? I think it's difficult. Yes. Right.
If it's okay, I wouldn't mind playing the rest of this video,
Okay.
or at least part, or maybe a part of it at least, because Matt Walsh, I think his rebuttal is actually pretty good, and I wouldn't mind hearing your thoughts on it.
Okay.
So let me just put this up here. And this is, let's hear what Matt Walsh has to say in terms of rebuttal, specifically the claim that in ancient times men weren't introspective. Right?
Yeah,
Listen to what Matt Walsh has to say about it. I certainly have thoughts, but I want to let Matt Walsh have his.
Okay, so this is clearly ridiculous at face value. He's claiming that the great men of history had zero introspection. And something like the opposite of that is the case. I mean, to begin with, all the great philosophers in the history of the human race existed during the time of zero introspection, according to Mark. So apparently Plato and Aristotle were not introspective, or else they weren't great men of history. I don't know which. Either way, it's retarded. So you think about all the great philosophers, artists, writers. Was Tolstoy not introspective? Was Dostoevsky not introspective? What about, like Michelangelo? I don't know. Based on his body of work, I'd say that seems like someone who had a fair amount of introspection, a pretty rich inner life. What about St. Augustine? What about, Thomas Aquinas? What about Shakespeare? And the list goes on and on. Now, you could say, well, those are all artists, theologians, philosophers. Introspection was their profession. It was their craft, in a sense. So what about the great men who were doers, who were rulers and warriors and inventors and leaders? Well, again, what you find, if you look back in history, is the opposite of what Mark Andreessen is claiming. And by the way, this is a guy who's like in the tech field, I think does some works with AI and that sort of thing. Silicon Valley. It's pretty haunting, actually, when you think about the fact that you've got these tech CEOs who are denying the existence of an inner self at all. Like, that does not bode well for us. But anyway, historically, the great doers, the great leaders were men of deep introspection. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man in the world and also one of the most introspective men to ever live. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Ben Franklin, Napoleon, Columbus, Andrew Carnegie. I mean, basically just random great men of history. You could just list them and all of them fit the bill because these guys wrote journals and they wrote diaries and they wrote letters. In many cases, they wrote memoirs, books. Some of them wrote poetry. Some of them were artists in their spare time. They were well-read. They studied. Many of the great men of history, in fact, were romantics. They were sentimental. They were highly driven by feelings of love and devotion, a sense of honor. That's the thing that probably above all, if you read history, what you find, what is the thing above all else that seems to have driven the great men of history? Honor, a sense of honor.
Okay, we're just going to pause there because I want to get your guys' feedback on what he said in that little segment.
Yeah, 100%. Like I already got it when Nietzsche said philosophy is dead. After that, you get empirical philosophy, which is just this reductionistic crap. Like it's not crap, but it's only one side of everything, materialism, period,
You know,
which is totally 100% mechanical. And yeah, if he looks back and he goes, "Wow, we haven't had introspection for a while," he's kind of correct to a little bit, right? That's not to say that nobody is introspective.
But ironically, that's not what Mark Anderson is saying. Mark Anderson, the billionaire guy, is saying that retrospection didn't exist until the 20th century and was invented by Freud. So Mark Anderson, he's actually saying the opposite. Matt Walsh is the one who's saying that in ancient times, all the great men of history were introspective. It's only today that you find people like these tech billionaires claiming there's no even an internal self. It's the it's funny how the billionaire is saying the opposite.
And I agree with them. So they're making themselves in a position of being possessed by not connecting to that. So they're vulnerable. It's like they've opened a gateway to being possessed. They've like invited something in. I hate this. That's what I see. Okay. And here's what I'm going to say about that. They're just easily possessed. Easily demons can step into that. But I'm saying maybe the field is just putting that out there in order to create the next obstacle for humanity to evolve through. And so I can't say that that the demons are good or bad even in this case.
Well, look,
all I know is everything is exactly how it needs to be. You wrote me an email, and I agree with everything you said. Right, that is what it is.
Yeah, no, it is what it is. That's fine. But as I like to point out, the mountain is there to be climbed, right?
It's there, but you see,
to be conquered, right?
I'm the disruptor, and I say, okay, well, what if it's a molehill? Do we have to make it a mountain?
Okay, no, but just work with me for just a second. Just try to take a moment of non-disruption so we can agree on something.
Well, we have agreed. We have agreed.
When you say that maybe this is exactly what the world needs in order for it to, for it to wake up or for it to, whatever, that's like saying the mountain is there in order for us to conquer it.
I think so.
In other words, you can't become a master mountaineer if you don't climb mountains, but you can't climb mountains if you don't have a mountain to climb.
Right.
So all this AI shit that's being forced to, and this is what I wanted to just touch on is this word honor.
Yeah.
Because I think of all the words that have been used to describe AI and the AI industry,
yes,
I don't think anybody in their right mind would try to describe it as honorable.
No, I agree.
And so that is a word that I have never heard anybody attempt to use in a description describing a Silicon Valley billionaire, that they're an honorable, not forget about a great man of history, but an honorable man.
Okay, I 100% agree. So what words do come up is trickster. Okay, and that could be good or bad. Trickster, because it is a trickster. Okay,
right,
and it has no honor. There's no honor there. It's a trickster. And Murphy and I talked about fighting, and I talked about this fifth generation fighting as opposed to kinetic fighting. And he goes, well, I want to punch the guy in the head. And I go, no, we're not fighting that way anymore. Because we had Gandhi, which is turn the other cheek. And now we're in fifth generation warfare, which is it's kind of like slimy a little bit, right? Like nobody gets killed, but it's war. It's all out. It's more of a spiritual war now than a kinetic war. Okay, so trickster, once you operate there, then it's not about honoring it. Like honor, yes, that's nice. That's nice. It's about trickster. How do we deal with the trickster? How do we deal with the deception? Yeah, they're kind of connected, right? So we're going to say the trickster's a bad guy? No, he's not. He's just a trickster.
I'll say this.
I don't know. I'm saying it very fast. I don't know if I've covered it. You know, I'm trying to say something.
See, look, this billionaire that talks, right? Everything that he does is very, what's the word? Almost enticing in a sense, because he does, is introspective, or lack of introspective, is him saying that he doesn't have any problems, but he's dealing with all the problems out there, out externally, out in the world, that, you know, people are starving, so he's going to solve the starvation issue and all that stuff.
The energy I see is a big empty hole. I'm sorry. It just,
Like,
the guy is empty. Is a hole inside the guy cannot fill.
And he thinks he's so great because he's working with all that stuff out there. But what he doesn't know is the people who are being introspective are bringing in a more deeper element, which allows him to do that. Because if we weren't doing that, then he would just be on this farm or whatever, fighting with other dogs who are also doing the same thing, whatever, right? He wouldn't be sophisticated in the sense that he wouldn't be developing these complex things. And what being the trickster is him in this outside world really just trying to deal with it without any internal aspect in it that makes the trickster evolve into a true magician, not just like
a true magician, as opposed to an exploitation,
right?
You know, selfish, or self-oriented.
Well, in esotericism, we say black magician versus white magician.
Right.
I was going to say that, but I wanted us to just move slowly to that.
This billionaire is a black magician. He'll make things show up based on what he can conjure, right? Based on what he can conjure up. That's I'm not gonna say it's wrong. It's just what he can do. That's all he can do.
That's all he can do. And what it does, what I'm saying, my whole point, even previous to this, is he's creating a bigger and bigger hole. That needs to happen for him in order to push him and force him at some point, possibly, into introspection. And the whole thing can pop on itself. He may lose his whole fortune all of a sudden, or his whole life comes into question. What the hell did I do in this? Goddamn, what did I achieve? Nothing. Like, where did that come? His whole. That's all I'm saying. Nature creates that. It creates that. It doesn't just create, out of a spiritual being, it doesn't just create a mechanical, that's it. No, you know.
Benjamin says, I agree, these elites are possessed. And he says, by whom? He says, fallen angels, and which are demons.
Well, I don't know. Probably. I don't know. Probably. More than likely.
I talked about, recently I talked about Shakespeare and tragic heroes and whatnot. And the reason why those stories are so compelling is precisely because of what you're describing, Wolfgang. Is that after 3.5 hours of watching a great man literally fall into psychological hell and kill a bunch of people and everything else, but it's in the last 5 minutes of the play that he has a moment of clarity and he realizes the error of his ways, and there's like a little moment of redemption or whatever, that's what creates catharsis for the audience. That's why these plays are so powerful and why they have been so compelling for hundreds and hundreds of years.
100%.
Right?
Let me say, what is that saying? That's saying, don't let this happen to you. Right. So to our black magician, it's in his face going, don't let this happen. Don't wait till your deathbed, the moment before you die, for this to take place, because it will take place.
Well, it may take place.
I know. I mean, he may have to come back another lifetime and do the same shit again.
Or Or he may only have that realization once he's down in hell.
Yeah, and he could be an
Exactly.
NPC cut here to do this, and nobody knows why
Or
he's here.
or he comes back. But the
Yeah.
thing is that this is why they call it the wheel of Samsara. This is why we call it the downward spiral, because he could come back another lifetime and
Yeah, he
be
could be
born
a
into
master-
a billionaire family
Yeah,
with a
yeah.
billionaire, and then he might get caught on the same treadmill all over again. Because let
Yeah,
us not
and
forget.
live in the universe of the demiurge, right?
Well, because let's not forget, there
Yeah.
are entities
Yeah,
in hell
yeah,
whose innermost being is overwhelmed and trapped by their demon half,
yes.
and they can't escape. They can't get
No,
out.
they're too deep
They're
now.
trapped there.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
trapped
yeah.
there. Yeah,
Yeah, they
Gurdjieff talked about it. I've done programs on it. When I talk about the Hasnamusen, right? And Gurdjieff
Yeah.
wrote about them, right? The Hasnamusen. That this is the mythological archetype of the centaur, right? Half man, half goat.
And the thing
The thing
these
is
guys,
that, yeah, you can play with that. You can
Yeah.
experience that. You can play with that. But the longer you go as a half man, half goat, the more stronger the goat half becomes. The
Yes.
stronger the goat half, the stronger the goat half. And if
you know what?
if you allow yourself to get too far gone,
Yeah,
there's a metaphysical science, right?
yeah. So the thing about those people is they still have that hole inside them, regardless of how deep they are, and that
Yeah,
hole
yeah.
has to be filled.
I agree.
Makes them
I agree.
vampires. That makes them look for innocence and all the rest of it, because they don't know why, but they have to do it. And so they're driven mechanically, instinctually to do it, not consciously.
Yeah,
They
that's
have to
right.
feed,
That's
they
exactly
have to
right.
feed, right? So it's a different universe than the one we're in.
Well,
But
no, it's not a different universe at the one
No, no,
we're
no.
in. It's the universe we're in.
It exists the same way that it goes up, it goes down, right? And they
It's
have their own hierarchy.
okay. So that's okay. You're talking about now. It's just an ever increase, like an ever darker, more intense version of what we're in.
Yes.
But this meme that I made years ago, it basically describes what you're talking about, right? And in the bottom left-hand corner here, I get you to just zoom in on this famous line that when Alexander saw the breadth of his domain, he wept, for there were no more worlds to conquer.
Right.
And that is the archetypal expression of someone whose whole has grown to the size of the world, and then he
Yes.
conquers the world, and his whole is still every bit as empty.
Yes. And you've
And-
heard the
and
story.
so-
You've heard the story of the Midas touch, right? Where everything you touch
Yeah. That's right. Of King Midas.
Same
Yeah.
story. Yeah. King Midas. Yeah.
And what I say here is, when you've tasted every delicacy, drank every vintage, indulged every sexual desire, amassed untold wealth, hold all the power, comfort, and security of the world in the palm of your hand, but can find no joy or satisfaction in any of it anymore. What else
Right.
is there for your egos but the domination and corruption of innocence, and to feed on the final frontier of forbidden fruit?
Yeah. And
This is why
all these rich
Right.
guys are on the path to that end. Like they're just rushing for it, like they can't even control the speed at which they're moving towards that end. I think so. Yes.
Yeah, but you see, again, this is the deception that
Yeah.
they are being deceived. They are being deceived
Yeah.
because
Well,
they are
are they-
being deceived.
have they chosen to be in that deception? They've allowed it. It's a choice.
Okay. Now that's a different question, right?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
but you always have free will.
Yes.
But the thing is that at some point in classical Christianity and whatever, the word that they use is temptation.
Yes.
In esotericism, we just use the word desire.
Yeah, and in temptation comes what you would say security, getting something from the external world and giving up a freedom to do so. So we see that today by people, willingly giving up freedoms for security, right? And that's what
yes, that's true.
you
Yeah,
see
yeah.
all around us. And they try to use fear and scare you with this germ and war and God knows what, and people go, they want to deal with that fear, and they're willing to give up freedoms so that they can feel secure, when in
But you
fact,
see,
yeah,
they do that. The fear is such a powerful motivator because let's face it, fear is the primal survival instinct.
yeah,
And so it's very, individuals are vulnerable
yes,
on that area because at the end of the day, we are still mortals. I mean, this mortal who's speaking to you is
yes.
mortal, and
So-
he's going to feel fear. If
So
someone
here-
puts a gun, if someone walks in here right now and puts a
Yeah.
gun to my head and cocks
Yeah.
the trigger, rest
Yeah.
assured, I'm going to feel fear.
Okay, here let me say this. One of the first immediate kind of responses is, I want to hold hands with somebody. I don't want to be alone here, right?
Sure. Yeah.
This group
Yeah.
think, this group kind of, where am I? Am I right? Am I wrong? Right? So
That's
the
right.
number
Yeah.
one thing that has to happen is a kind of stubbornness, the positive side of stubbornness, which is, I'm going to listen to my innermost, and that's it. That's it. That's stubborn. Because everything is making you want to do something else. Like, okay, I don't know, but it has an aspect of stubbornness. I don't know what else.
Okay. See this again. Okay. You see, this is what Wolfgang has such interesting choice of words.
Okay.
It's a kind of stubbornness. I would call that integrity.
Of course.
The refusal to compromise.
The
will of my innermost for what the crowd wants me to do.
Why did I say
I should do, right?
Why did me, who I am, the trickster, say a kind of stubbornness so you could say what you said, which is perfect. We've emphasized it now together. We've put emphasis on it, which is really beautiful.
And okay, now the reason why I think you said stubbornness is, rest assured, when my family would hear me, putting my foot down and saying, no, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to be true to myself, I'm going to maintain my integrity, rest assured, every single last one of them said, oh, Attila is so damn stubborn.
Yeah, okay. So what you're being in the path of Christ. You're in the Christic path. What does the Bible say? You get crucified. You're going to get crucified every time, right? That's what the story is about. When you're on this path, you will get crucified. So I say, well, okay, I don't want to get crucified every time. How do I become invisible? How do I become untouchable, yet be true to myself? See, we have to learn something, so we're just going to kick ourselves in the head all the time. Right. And when I say how I talk and how I do things, and everybody likes how I talk, right? Nobody seems to object anymore. That's because the trickster has to learn how to do that, or he's going to get killed. Somebody's going to shoot the guy, right? I think you said, last comment, you said that's what drives people crazy. Yes, it would. But in practice, in reality, it doesn't. It only does for you because you are working with me, helping me to refine this process. So it does for you. Because I learn. I always learn.
Well,
I'm hoping you do too.
it doesn't drive me crazy. I use that word, I use that phrase because that's the phrase that you used. But
Right. Yeah.
um
But it
like you
does
said,
stimulate something. It stimulates something, right? That's what I do.
it
We're all
it's
disruptors.
something that,
We're all disruptors. We all are. Otherwise, we
sorry?
couldn't communicate. We're all kind of a level of being disruptors in order to bring in new material. Otherwise, we couldn't do that. That we couldn't bring new material. So it has to be an element of disrupting and creating a fluidity, a liquidity in the person you're trying to communicate with, so that they can allow that material that you're presenting or showing or you're wanting to share. You don't just share with a full glass, for lack of better
Right.
words. There has to be a little emptiness, and most glasses today are full because people are
That's true.
just right. So you can't even speak to that. So you have to
Well,
be disruptive, or you have to make it more fluid, and where it opens itself to allowing, which is not its nature. Its nature, because the glass is so full, it doesn't want to allow anything.
well, here's the thing is that to me, one of my favorite expressions is I cannot stand the people who obsess over what's called the letter of the law.
Right.
I'm all about the spirit of the law,
Yes.
right?
Okay.
Because
Spirit of
to
the
me,
Bible.
people obsessing over the letter of the law is
Yes.
like a computer program reading computer code. And if it's
Yeah.
not written the right way in the right sequence with everything, then it does not compute, right? They can't, the brain is like that. It's like, it's just a computer. So that's why you often run into people who are, they're so stuck, they have such cognitive dissonance, is because they've been deceived that
Yes.
the truth is bound inside the letter of the law. And by the way,
Yeah.
I believe to my, or not believe, I know in the bottom of my being that joke about what do you call 10,000 lawyers at the bottom of the ocean? You know, it's a good start, right?
Right.
That joke comes from the fact that lawyers make a living on exploiting the letter of the law.
Which is called to complicate. They're not complexifying anything. They're complicating
Right?
it. And they're cleverly complicating it. Yes.
But really, you can go back. You can go back in history. You can look at the 10 Commandments or whatever, and it's like there's the spirit of the law right there. And Jesus gave us 2 commandments: love thy neighbor as yourself. Like, I mean, what more do you need from that? Therein is the whole of the spirit of the law.
Right.
But people, but you can't make a living on that. You can't make an industry on that. You can't exploit anyone. You can't trap anybody. You can't sue anybody on love thy neighbor as yourself. What, you're going to take someone to court because they didn't love you like they love themselves? So they elaborate this endless complicated, like spaghetti, like endless laws upon laws upon laws of, and then amendments to the law and exceptions to the amendments to the law, and it just goes on and on, so that you can't even like build a shed in your backyard, right, without hiring a lawyer to see if the city will let you build a shed in your own backyard.
No, it's called the opposite of common sense. The opposite.
Yeah, so I mean, like,
it's not. There's nothing common sense about it.
Okay, so why did I bring it up? I brought it up because when you talk about disruption, and you talk about like, and you use words that are sometimes like almost the opposite, not the opposite. They're very related, but okay. But I always know, or to one degree or another, I'm always in touch with the spirit of what you're saying.
Yes, but because
Right?
that's why I say it that way, so it kind of helps move people to that place, and
So-
you immediately work towards, let's move this forward, which is, how can we improve on this? How can we refine this? And I'm grateful for that,
Well,
even
how
though
can
sometimes it's a little painful.
we know, yeah, we know that we're on the same spirit. We know we're on the same wavelength. Now, how
Yeah.
can we arrive at an expression that you say, yeah, okay, that's it, and I can say, yeah, okay, like we could, so we come at it from different perspectives, but we get, so we now have an expression. We can put the words to the spirit. We can say words that are truly in touch with that spirit.
Here's what I want to say about that. That, whatever that word is still only for a time being. It works for this period of time. We will outgrow that word. We will.
Right. See, let's say, whatever, 10, 15 years ago, that word used to be teamwork, right? And
Yeah.
then it started moving up to cohesion, and then it started moving up to whatever, right?
Yeah.
In the end, it always moves itself as fast or faster than where you're at.
Yes.
So you can come up with all these things and terminologies, but in the end, it's always going to be one step above.
Ultimately, the word we agree on, we need to see as a temporary construct. We're going to work with that because we can right now. We've moved it up a notch, but that notch will be superseded with another. And we need another terminology for that. I'm not saying that's what it is. It just is what it is. It's that, right? That's all I ever try to say. So when you say that observation of observation, that's me applying the what is it called? The guardrails, applying them. By being in that movement, as opposed to it, like, let's agree on this. Well, we can agree on that. It's still a temporary construct for now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, there's why should I get angry about anything other than something I'm working out on my own self, right? Why? There's nothing I should really get angry about that you would say.
One of the, I wouldn't say biggest traps, but one mini trap is the idea that we're all working together as a team. Yes, we're all working together, right? We're doing things to transcend and move forward. And that, in a sense, when someone's looking on the outside, in case, YouTube viewers or whoever is looking at this right now, they're watching and like, yeah, you know what? They're really working together to try to create something completely above whatever they're thinking about, like consciousness, right? Or whatever. That's there. And at the same time, that's not what that is anymore. Every time we have the discussion, it's always something else. We're always sounds like we're kind of arguing, but we're not. It's like, how can you say that we're really like a team when that's happening all the time? It's just moving forward in our own way, that of how we speak, what we do, everything that,
if we talk about an ecosystem, he's talking about one animal eating another animal and all this stuff happening, but it's a high order ecosystem and it's incredible harmony happening, right? But where all this stuff is happening, like one animal sacrificing itself to the ecosystem, to the other animal, like you don't want to get down into that part.
I will add this, though.
You're looking more for the cohesion than you are for that kinetic participation part, right? You can't boil it down to one animal eating another animal. Oh, that's bad, right? Like, it isn't. Like, what are you analyzing? What are you judging here? Like, that's not what it is, right?
No, but that, you see, that's the again, one of the fundamental mechanics of deception, right? And I want to come back to this temporary construct and this idea that we get to an expression that embodies the spirit of the truth, and we
Yes.
have that expression, and we can agree on that expression. But you said yourself, you said, but you know what? Eventually, that expression is going to have to change, or we're going to need a new expression. That fact
Yes.
is in microcosm, in that little case study, right, of a word or a phrase that expresses a divine truth.
Yes.
A little word or a phrase that expresses a divine truth, that eventually we will need a new phrase or a new word, because that case study is exactly 100% what happens to religions.
Yeah.
Because a
Exactly.
religion
Yes.
is an expression of divine truth. Now, it's much more than just a word. It's much
Yeah.
more than just a phrase. It's a complete system. It's a very complex construct.
Yes.
Now, here's the key, though, right? Because I like talking about the mechanics, the science of why religions lose their way. Why do
Yeah.
religions break up into many sects and have schisms, and then they start killing each other over, you know what I mean? Like Shiites and Sunnis, right? They end up killing each other, or Catholics and Protestants
Yeah.
in England and Northern Ireland.
But
So
you said it in the spirit of the spirit of the law, the word of the law. It's the word of the Bible. It's the word of the religion. That's the same thing. It's not the spirit of the word. It's the
okay,
spirit.
okay. Now, but the mechanics of that
Yes.
are that the mind, the machine, the that aspect of the human machine, that
Yes.
like I said, it's like a central processing unit. It's like a computer. Its
Yeah.
focuses its attention on the construct, on the words, on the syntax,
Yes.
and on the outward symbols and
Yes.
idols. So we
Yes.
have a word for that. The
Yeah.
word
Okay.
for that is called idolatry.
I know. And the minute I
Right?
said temporary construct, that was the weak side of the word. But what it does is it stimulates exactly what
Sure.
you're saying now.
Absolutely.
Like
No
and
question.
that's unfortunately what words represent, the stimulation of the spirit. We can't go by the word. We need to sort of, okay, I really think you mean this, right? Well, how do you know? Well, how do I know? I just can feel it, right? Because
Okay,
that's
so
the spirit. So a lot of what we're saying now is when I say the us conversation starts to take place in that place, right?
but we also used the excuse me, the expression, the formlessness
Yes,
moving into, through, and out of form,
in and
right?
through and out of. Yes, yes,
Into, through, and out
yes,
of.
precisely.
So
That's what I
in
call temporary construct.
microcosm, in
That's exactly
microcosm,
what you described. I call temporary construct for
yeah,
for encapsulation, which the word is wrong because it's more what you're saying. It's the movement. It's a movement.
it's not wrong. I would never say it's wrong.
Oh, I know, but you've brought movement into it by saying in
Sure,
form and through form and
sure.
out again. That's movement. Whereas temporary construct is a place.
Right.
Well, for you, for me,
I
temporary,
know
because temporary is, do you know what I
it
mean?
does.
Like we have
It,
these nuances.
yes,
Like
yes,
for me,
yes,
temporary construct, the word construct, first of all, means that somebody constructed it. So
yes.
there's action in construct.
Yeah,
And
okay.
the word temporary
Is it's
means
movement.
that the construct won't last, meaning there's destruction
Yes,
in temporary construct. There is construction, there
yes,
is being, and there is destruction. So you have three different elements where already you have
okay.
moving into, through, and out of form are embodied in the phrase temporary construct. The only thing that's missing from temporary construct is the
Yeah.
formlessness that's moving through it all. That's all. And maybe
yes,
that's what gives it that mechanical quality that doesn't maybe quite feel so fluid,
well,
right?
you might say the formlessness moving into a temporary construct, moving into, right? Maybe.
Sure, yeah.
I
Or
think
inspiring. Or
Okay,
inspiring.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
And
let's face it, this is the thing is like when religions are born, it's because
Yeah.
people were inspired to
Yeah.
band together and follow this whatever it was or this whoever it was.
Yeah.
And but then after hundreds, thousands of years, it's like the construct becomes the thing and people become identified and attached to the
Right.
construct.
Right.
And it becomes less and less and less about that essence, that ineffable formlessness that
Yeah.
inspired it in the first place,
Yeah.
unless we're talking about. This is why in the past Catholicism was able to endure and Christianity was able to endure for so long, because let's face it, those artists, those Renaissance masters, the poets, the artisans, the craftsmen, the sculptors, the painters, the musicians who played their requiem masses and stuff inside of those cathedrals. And you go inside those cathedrals and you're like, so many people were inspired by that formless essence inside of them to express in stone and in glass and in pigment and in sound this glory of this ineffable love, this light, this goodness, this godliness. And then they created these they're constructs and they're temporary.
So let me say something.
But they still inspire generations of people to
Yes.
like, you can't go into some of these cathedrals and not feel God in your heart. You really can't.
So what's interesting about that in the physical world, when that is imbued into the construct, then it'll be there 1,000 years, 2,000 years, still the building will still stand. How does that connect? Because when you move into a utilitarian, materialistic, you're lucky if you get 10 years out of it. Maybe 20 years. And the thing will the thing will disintegrate and just disappear.
Basically, what you're describing is modern architecture.
Yes.
Because it's completely, it has none of that formless beauty, that essential formlessness, that truth, that light, that love. That's why you look at a modern building and you go, yeah, that's interesting, and then you immediately forget it.
So
but you spend 5 minutes, in La Sagrada Familia.
Yeah.
And it will stay with you the rest of your life.
And what is it in the ecosystem that I build that make mine last like 40 years and is still going? Is exactly that. Why do other people, nobody else that I see anywhere, achieve that? They last for a year, they tear it down because it doesn't work. It's because of that 100%, only that. Because
as John Keats immortalized these words, beauty is truth, truth beauty. That's all you can know in life and all you need to know.
Right.
And that's from the final rhyming couplet from Ode on a Grecian Urn. And it's this perfect expression of what is real and what is true. What is truth? Beauty is truth, but not the beauty of aesthetics, not the superficial horseshit beauty that they teach in design school. Right. No, the beauty that Pythagoras taught in his mystery school when he was first teaching geometry and the golden ratio and so on, because he was connecting it to the ineffable and the infinite, that which is true, that which is real. And he was using mathematics and so on to, and that the Renaissance masters revived all of this and then brought it to bear. And then you see all of these things embodied in these expressions of both beauty and truth. And nowadays, you look at the buildings being built, and they're interesting, but they're neither beautiful nor are they true. And nothing that is built on a lie can last. A deception cannot last.
Right.
Because it's a facade.
Yes.
It's a facade. A facade cannot stand.
No, to me, that's blatantly obvious. It's so like when you talk about discernment, because you're talking about deception, how do we move beyond it? It's called discernment. You start to see what you're saying, you just see it. Somebody walks up to you, you're able to just see it right in their, I call it their energy, but it moves eventually to a place where you just see it, like before it even talks to you, before he even says anything. You know,
no, it's true. And there's, you know,
you don't want to be discriminating. You want to be open, your heart open, but you're just
absolutely
you're going discerning. You're going, I don't want to cast my pearls before swine. I want to contain the value of and share it with the correct alignment. I don't want to just hit that.
And I want to, and I just to be clear, I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. Number one, John Keats was writing about an urn. An urn, a thing you put dead, cremated people into, okay? And when I talk about beauty is truth and truth beauty, one of the most, and I can talk about La Sagrada Familia or, you know, the you know, whatever cathedrals or whatever, but the most incredible church I ever stepped foot in was on the Carpathian Basin, in the middle of the Carpathian Basin in Hungary, out in the middle of nowhere. It was a church that literally had like four wooden pews in it, but its walls were like 3.5, 4 meters thick, solid stone with tiny little like arrow slit amber stained glass windows, because this little church, which was built somewhere in the ballpark of 600 or 700 AD, this little church had survived countless invasions, the Crusades, the Ottoman occupation, and the Soviet occupation. And this tiny little church, you walk in here and you know, and by the way, the entrance of the church not only had these gigantic oaken doors that were reinforced with steel, it had what you call a portcullis, which is that like that grate that comes down from the top. It was like fortified like a castle.
Okay.
And you just know that for literally more than 1,000 years, 1,500 years, there have been families who were living in that area, farmers and herders and so on, who actually came and sought shelter in that little fortified church and were praying, you know, for their survival and so on. And all of that energy, all of that was in that little church. And it was like, my God, I stepped in there and I said, this is such a monument. This is such a testament to people's faith.
Well, the wall,
you know, and it was an incredible experience. But listen, it was not spectacular visually,
but
but it was beautiful. But it was beautiful.
The basic, whatever the essence, the material of the walls, got transmuted into a kind of computer reservoir. Like it just contained and held all of it. Okay. And that is the power of it. And then the more that it becomes that what I'm describing, the more it becomes that, right? It's as if the stone, which was like a kind of cement, transforms itself into a harder granite, crystal kind of thing. And it becomes more and more like crystal-like, in the sense that it just contains huge reservoir of call it storage space, for lack of better words. Okay, it becomes like a computer.
So can I offer
Yeah.
a slightly different
Oh yeah.
take? It's in giving that we receive.
Yes.
This is the, it's better to give than to receive, and it's in giving that we receive. And purpose, right? When self-actualization is the actualization, the ability to express selflessness.
Right.
And if that selflessness is received and then it's in giving that we receive. So when someone receives our selflessness, then what that actualization, that the fact that we express that, and that there's a feedback loop that comes back. That is the currency of divinity. That is the currency of the supernal worlds.
Yeah.
It's in giving that we receive. And what do we receive? We increase in level of being. So the stones, the monads who are in the stones and the glass and the wood that made that church, what were they able to give? They were able to give shelter. They were able to give a place of worship. They were able to, they gave and gave and gave. And over 1,000, 1,500 years, that was received and received and received. So the more they gave, so that is where that energy, it's a strange thing. They were bringing into the world through their acts of selflessness. They were actualizing the Christ at their own level, at the level that a stone brick in a building can actualize.
Like we call that imbuing, isn't it? It's an imbuing.
That's another level. Imbuing is when an artist or an artisan is pouring themselves into something, and that something receives it from them.
But I'm saying everybody that goes in the church finds themselves doing so.
And you know what? I agree with that. That's part of that. That in part of that exchange, I would agree with that. That in their singing and in their worship, that the church becomes more empowered by the faith of the congregation. I agree with that.
Let me say about my ecosystems, exactly everything you're describing. People coming in and being, wow, and they're imbuing that kind of thing into the and the ecosystem responds. It becomes more high order ecosystem, and it becomes stronger, and it responds by just flowering and having beautiful plants that sustain themselves. They're just a greater level of sustainability in the ecosystem itself, and its ability to purify itself and clean the air of the building and the whole space, which is what the church does as well.
Right.
Probably have very clean air in there, which is what is that from? How does that be there? Well, because the energy is clear, right? And so it's not exactly like an ecosystem. I wanted to give one other example because this is again different. Remember Gurdjieff and Meeting with Remarkable Men, and they have this place where they go, all the people meet, and they have these guys that they chant, right, and they want to make that connection, right, and they always do that every year, and they try, and finally this one guy makes the connection, and they're going through this kind of conscious process of doing what you're saying and reminding themselves, and the rocks themselves that allow for the echoing, right, they are working like the church there, you know, they and allowing that same, and so everybody goes through that process every year just to get in touch with everything you're talking about.
I just want to bring it back to, because this imbuing that we
Yes.
arrived at, okay, this is really important to understand that mechanical nature, okay,
Yes.
exploits this.
Yes.
That there is a version of this, that there is a mechanical version of this where the desire for attention,
Yes.
and that attention doesn't amount, or doesn't result in an imbuing, but an empowering of desire.
Right.
And we call that the lust for fame,
Yeah.
right? The desire for attention. When you look at a kid or a pet,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I don't know if your chameleon does this, but many animals will do this, where they want attention, right? So they'll do bad things. Like a child will misbehave just to get attention, right? So it's important to understand this, because deception, right? There's an entire class of deception that's all about getting attention. And and by the way, so the opposite of imbuing, where you freely give of your energy to what you're doing or whatever, the opposite of that is, we have words for this, like vampirism and energy vampires, and so sucking, and the succubi, and so on. So the idea is that they create a deception where they trick you into giving your attention and giving your energy, or they outright come and take it.
Yeah.
And that's really important, because that's a big aspect of deception. And what I wanted to get to, and why I brought up the little tiny little church, it's because I would love to be able to get out there in the world and tell more and more women to wear less and less makeup. Right? Like only wear as much makeup as you need to bring out your natural beauty. You know, like, so if you're pale faced or whatever, and you look like you just stepped out of a meat freezer, then, you know, fine, just a little bit of makeup, but to bring you back up to that normal, natural, radiant beauty that you have. But whenever I see a woman, I meet her on the street or whatever, and she's wearing so much makeup, or she's deliberately trying to make herself hot and sexy and desirable and whatever, it's like the energy that I get from that is, my God, you're an ugly person inside.
Well, it amounts to the same as these people putting tattoos all over their body, right? Same kind of thing, you know. So like, that's a darker side of it, but it really amounts to that, right? It's a mask.
I'm not a big fan of the tattoos. I'm not a big fan of the piercings. I'm not a big fan of the crazy makeup or whatever. Like because, like you said, it's a mask. It's a kind of.
It's the opposite.
Now,
of
some people will say. Some people will say that their tattoos are an outward expression of what's in their heart, right? So that it's like they're literally trying to wear their heart on their sleeve, right? And it's funny, because Matt Walsh, the guy in the video, the guy making the commentary in the video, not the billionaire, but the guy with the beard, he actually has the Chi Rho, you know, the Pax Romana tattooed on the inside of his arm.
Yeah.
It's in a kind of inconspicuous place, but it's huge, right?
Okay.
It's almost like he's there to remind himself about the Christ, and it's on his right arm.
Yeah.
Right.
So people have different reasons to get tattoos. That still doesn't mean that I'm a fan of them. Don't get me wrong, but on the other hand, I've softened a little bit on the tattoo issue.
I
I
understand.
used to be very adamant on it, but I've softened a little bit because I've known some people who have had some pretty heartfelt reasons for why they had certain tattoos.
And maybe they needed to remind themselves of some of it, right? And they needed that extra. It's like some people need to do the ritual, right? But to me, it's another kind of ritualization, okay? So they go through a process to keep themselves in touch with that. But that is also, to some extent, what separates them from it, okay?
Now,
it has an aspect of that.
I'll say this. Part of at least what I feel about tattoos is that it puts us away from why we have a vessel. Where when we come here to a certain extent to have us hold information, to hold values, to hold certain things and navigate our way around experiences in life in general. And it's all very general, right? And when you have a tattoo, when you have makeup, when you have all these things, you're trying to put stuff on your vessel and you're trying to see what sticks. Of course, if you put a tattoo, it's going to stick a lot harder. But the more stuff you put on there, the less of your vessel you have to take in more information.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
it's a kind of filter, right? It's a kind of filter.
So yes, you're able to have the tattoo and be very confident, be very powerful. But you also have to remember that when you put that on there, you also taken away part of your body that's able to take in more information.
It creates rigidity as opposed to fluidity.
And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. Again, there's some aspects that are very powerful that need to be put out there in the world.
Yeah, and it's not all allowing. It's only, I'm channeling in through this, right?
But like, you're not fooling me when you're telling me something else and being like, yeah, this is all there is. No, that's all it is for you because that's in you.
Sure.
And if I tattoo on me,
but you know what? It's okay. That's what he needs to do, right?
Well, listen. To be fair, Matt Walsh is a very rigidly minded person, right? So might be a connection.
I would find that out maybe by seeing some more, but I think I got that too. The way he said the way he spoke, right? It was very format-like, right? And he did a good job of breaking it down, right?
Well, there is more that he had to say.
Okay.
And then so maybe this will feed into the next part because even though he's very rigidly minded and whatever, he actually is willing to make a little bit of a concession here in his commentary toward this billionaire guy. But it's not, he doesn't go so far as to give the billionaire the benefit of the doubt, but he does see a point that the billionaire might have been trying to say, or a point that does make sense. Let me just play it for you, and then we can talk after.
Can I say one quickly? A lot. Remember, I have the friend who says God wills it.
Yeah.
That's a little bit what this does. It creates God wills it, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Oh, no, absolutely.
There we go.
I mean,
I see it.
Look,
I see it so loud, right? And
okay. Well, you know that in Tibet, at the temples, they have these wheels that have prayers written on them, and the monks come by and they spin the wheels, right?
Yes.
And every time they spin the wheel, they believe that prayer is being spoken. It's like it's going out into the universe, right? So getting a tattoo on your arm, it's kind of like that. You're now a walking billboard for whatever it is that you put there, right? Because you're breathing and your energy as it goes out. It's like you're turning yourself into a stained glass window. Right. Your light is shining through that tattoo, no matter how you slice it. Yeah. Right? That tattoo is, you guys use different words to describe it, but it's really conditioning or modifying your energy, right? Because that's part of now.
But it's like
your mask.
It's like tinted glasses, right? It's
yeah.
it's
But it's the
coming
energy
in
that's going out there, right?
Exactly, both ways.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's watch this, and then we'll have a word on this part, because I think he makes a good point here.
That could be kind of true. I don't think this is what he was trying to say. Because he is right that therapy did not exist until basically the 20th century. I mean, maybe there were some rudimentary forms of it in the 19th century, but basically therapy, as we know it today, talk therapy, is a 20th century invention, and certainly did not become common mainstream until the 20th century. So men were not sitting around prior to, about 100 years ago, whining about their feelings to a therapist to whom they pay top dollar to listen to their complaints. That definitely wasn't happening. He's right about that. So there is a form of self-obsession today that didn't exist 200 years ago, especially among the great men, but I wouldn't call it introspection. I would almost say, the way that I would put it is this. I was thinking about it. The great men of history had a rich interior life. They were contemplative, they were introspective, but they weren't full of self-pity, and they didn't focus much on how they feel or how they felt about themselves. See, that's the difference. I think if you look at what they wrote and what they did, it's clear that these were people who felt deeply, but it doesn't seem that they were too focused on how they felt about themselves. So today, introspection involves this obsession, not with the state of your soul or your inner life, but with how you feel about yourself. 200 years ago, there was an emphasis on knowing yourself. Today, the emphasis is on feeling good about yourself. So it's not what you know about yourself, it's what you feel about yourself. That is the switch. That's the pivot. That's the thing now that everybody is so focused on. And when he's talking about introspection, that's probably what he means, which is not introspection at all. Because in fact, feeling good about yourself all the time means, in many cases, in practice, not knowing yourself. So a lot of therapy, and the way that our culture works in general, is to encourage you to lie about yourself to yourself so that you can feel better about yourself. Or to put you on drugs so that you feel better while your inner self is obliterated. Have you looked at your...
Okay, like the forum where Murphy also went to, they call it winning formula, right? It's all about creating a winning formula so you can feel good about yourself, right? It's all external, materialistic, totally a self-hypnosis externalization. So now you've created a trap. It's really hard to get out of if you're into the winning formula thing, personality, what you call personality, right? Obsession with personality and feeling good about that.
But I think his point here is a very salient one, where there was a clever bait and switch, and the bait and switch was instead of knowing yourself, bait and switch was
feeling,
was actually like cleverly finding a way to lie to yourself so that you can feel good about yourself.
That's what I said.
This is what we've had lots of conversations about the so-called the cult of positivity, right?
Yeah.
And I think this comes into play here where there's lots of people that and then they use the argument that, oh no, I don't want to look at my dark side. I don't want to look at my shadow because energy flows where attention goes, and I don't want to give my demons any energy. So I'm going to ignore them. I'm not going to look at them.
Oh no,
because
absolutely.
I don't want to give them any energy. It's like,
but here's step 2 to that was these people talking about I have to do my shadow work, which was nothing different than what you're describing. It was all the same stuff. Just because they say I'm going to look at my shadow, do my shadow work, they were still in that trap, trying to work inside the trap. Like they had to get out of the trap, in order to do shadow work. You can't do shadow work inside the trap. So none of those people got the job done. Yes, I'm dedicated to shadow work, but they succeeded at nothing. It was only me, myself, and I. Period.
Mhm.
There was no reconciliation.
Right. That's actually a good point. Is that and that's the problem with the so-called integration of the shadow, and why the whole people
Yes.
don't really understand shadow work. And Jung, when the way it gets summarized, Jung actually, when you understand what it is and do it properly, the I, the self,
Can't be there.
is transmuted, and it dies.
Exactly.
It's transmuted, and what you
Perfect.
integrate is what the shadow is stealing from your higher self, which is your consciousness.
100%.
But this is not how most people understand shadow work.
Of course not. Right? And
They
remember,
think shadow work is
remember the
they
word
think
self-help.
that shadow work is reintegrating their egos into their ego.
Oh, it's total bullshit. Yeah. So here's the thing. Remember the word self-help? Doesn't even exist anymore. It's gone. What happened to it? There was all this self-help stuff, all these books. Nobody reads them. What the hell? They don't work.
You know what? They're still around. It's just become full-blown black magic. That's all. They don't call it self-help anymore.
Yes. So you see
It's
how
full-blown
easy,
black magic. But again,
see how quickly we arrive at that conclusion. It comes from the discussion now about shadow work and how it's crap, right? So
no. Shadow work is not crap. The
know.
misunderstanding and the superficial intellectual egoic understanding and practice of it is bullshit.
Yeah. So you call
that's true for everything. But that's true for everything.
Yeah. Well, the walls, right? The walls of the trap are built with what I said originally about the winning formula. We create a winning formula. Those are the walls we create. They're the prison we build around ourselves, right? That winning formula has to be dismantled before we can do any of that.
Okay,
stuff.
but what I'm saying is, what is the ultimate winning formula if not the I? If not the self? The I. That's the ultimate formula. What I want.
And you know, and that's the intellect that brings you there.
Than what I'm willing to do to get what I want. That's the ultimate winning formula, which means that's what ultimately has to be dissolved.
Yes.
To succeed.
That's why I say the winning formula and the I, they're really synonymous. I agree with you. Yes.
Because every other winning formula serves that fundamental overarching formula, which is what can I get out of it?
You summarized it. That's exactly what I want to say.
But this goes right back to your whole analogy, that big gaping hole.
Exactly.
Because the only reason why you need winning formulas is because you're desperate to fill that hole.
Yeah. And it's kind of blocks the whole view from seeing the whole by having a story.
Exactly. Exactly. It keeps you focused out there.
So
and then all you end up with is this anxiety and depression and malaise and that hunger, this hunger. You don't even know where it comes from, but you always have this hunger for more and more and more and more.
Yes.
Because that's the energy that's the toxic energy that radiates out from that hole.
So here's what's happening again, and I think you'll agree. We're talking about the matrix. This is the illusion on top of the matrix. We're building the illusion on top of the matrix. So we're building the illusion in the illusion. Right?
And all of this comes down to the mechanics of deception.
Exactly.
In that there's always a truth that deception is trying to keep you from seeing.
So the deception is not out there. It's all we got to deal with it in here.
Well, the thing that you got to see, the things that it doesn't want you to see are always inside of you, but it
Yes.
can use out there, because remember, one of the most powerful forms of deception is
Yes.
distraction.
We
It's
talked about that.
misdirection, right?
Distraction. Yeah. This is
And,
where
and so we've
this
been
is
talking about, we've been using this word, you've been using the word trickster, but we also landed on the word magician.
yes,
Black magician. And if you want to understand deception, watch
Yes.
a show. You can watch episodes of it on YouTube. It's called Fool Us, or is it called Fool Us?
Okay.
Or Fool Them? Yeah, Fool Us. And
Yeah.
it's Penn and Teller, those stage magicians, those stage illusionists. They have a game show where magicians come and perform tricks, and they try to do magic tricks that Penn and Teller can't figure out.
Okay.
And now the interesting part of the show is when Penn and Teller and the magician start talking shop,
Okay.
and they start using the lingo of magic and illusion.
Yes.
And they start using, and you start to see a little bit behind the curtain. Not always. They don't always give the trick away, but just by listening to them talk to each other, it's like, okay, we can learn now stage magic. Don't get me wrong. Stage magic is a entertainment form of what we're talking about, but still, right? As above, so below. We can learn a great deal in a very, white belt, orange belt kind of way of what some of the fundamentals of deception and illusion are, like distraction, like misdirection, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
At that level, it's no longer martial arts, but it's a dancing. It's a dancing.
It's very much what I was saying at the beginning of today's program. It's a mediation. It's a production. It's a show, and then that there's, that's why Shakespeare said all the world's a stage, because everything on a stage is illusion.
Yeah, but that's dancing. That is dancing. You're going up.
Sure, okay.
Right, you're doing this rumba, and you're going, get away from me, and then you come back. Right, it's a show, right? And you can do it very intensely by really putting yourself into your dance, right? And women, when you do that with a woman, it's, oh my God, they just they're so, it's like, talk about foreplay. That's the ultimate foreplay for women.
But you see, that's well, you know what? Maybe we'll save that particular topic for another day.
Yeah.
Because there's also a lot of truth on the stage.
Yeah.
Even despite the fact that it's all illusion. But you see,
exactly.
Plato. Let me say one more thing. I watched a movie last night called Hamnet. Now it's apparently the name Hamnet is synonymous with Hamlet.
Yeah.
And it was directed by Chloe Zhao, and it was actually up for Best Picture. Okay. At the Oscars this year. Now, Plato once wrote that if you put reality on the stage, you make it a vulgarity.
Yes.
That it is vulgar. It is vulgar to put reality
Hollywood
on the
was
stage.
a perfect display of that. Hollywood was a perfect example of that, right?
Well, this summer, what Chloe Zhao did, I got to tell you, it was a vulgar film from beginning all the way to the end, until in the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes, the story, I'm sure the book is much better, but her depiction of the way she filmed it was vulgar all the way into the end, until this glimmer of truth and beauty came out.
Yes.
And I'm not saying it redeems the whole film, not by any stretch of the imagination, but at last something supernal, something
Yes.
supernatural, something
Yes.
that transcended the vulgarity of the ultra naturalism, ultra realism is presented in the last 5 minutes of the movie, and you're like, oh my God, thank God, a breath of fresh air.
Exactly.
The magic, the fantasy, the truth, the mythology, the truth, in other words, the beauty.
What you said earlier, it's very Shakespearean of him or her. Very Shakespearean, right?
But yeah, but no, it's
only
I
in
see
the
where you're coming from, but that's not it. But
I
that's not
know.
it, because Shakespeare did. You know what?
Yeah, he-
Nobody ever in the history of mankind spoke
Yeah.
like Shakespeare wrote.
because
People think that people could understand Shakespeare when he
I
wrote
did,
it. Nobody
because
understood him then
because it's
any
a
better
kind
than they understand him now.
because it's the kind of
He was writing a gibberish.
yes, we talked before, and I'm saying I totally
know.
tune into that. I tune into that always.
So
right?
okay,
And
but
so
the definition of that,
Yeah.
definition of that is that it's not realism. It's not realistic.
no. But here's the thing I want to say: in today's world, that's the closest way to achieve that. It's because the Shakespeare wouldn't work that way today.
It does.
I mean,
No,
it does.
It still
Okay,
does.
because it's Shakespeare. And so
Because
many
it's-
people have tuned into that. So it's like the church. People can connect with it. But to try to do the same vehicle today would be very difficult. Like if you use
I will say this. It works to a degree, and with every since the Enlightenment, the degree to which Shakespeare works has become less and less and less and less and less. The more intellectual the world becomes, the less effective Shakespeare is.
Thus is that exactly what you're saying is why I'm saying what I'm saying. So the vehicle has to shift somehow. And this is a stab at how do I do that? And all I can say is it's more misdirection, more gibberish, right? All that bad shit that happens you describe in the front of the movie. Yeah, that's all preamble. That's the way, that gets the attention, gets somebody to watch the movie, and then they go, oh my God, right? Like I don't know.
It's vulgar. It's vulgar. I will never watch that movie again.
I didn't see
I
the
will
movie.
never watch that movie again. It's a vulgarity.
I can't really judge. I think
what?
There's
this summer, Christopher Nolan is making his interpretation of the Odyssey. Okay, Homer's Odyssey. Okay. If we go and watch that in the movie theater, and then afterwards, my first question to you will be, now how vulgar was that?
Yeah.
Because this is Christopher Nolan. This is the guy who directed that Batman trilogy with
me. I'm going to say that was pretty vulgar, but I'm going to instantly say but. I'm going to say there's something else, like instantly.
You know what?
Yeah.
I sure hope so.
I already know so, but maybe I could be wrong. He might be wrong. I feel it. I feel it.
We got to get to some comments here. Hang on. He says, Mutaga says, the billionaire reminds me of 19th century U.S. thought of manifest destiny. He represents what the U.S. idealize: a billionaire, a trillionaire, someone who is able to disregard human suffering, animal suffering, and have only a tunnel vision towards achieving his goals, which is amassing wealth. But can this sharp focus he has be instead turned on the inner world? In my opinion, being fully aware of our multidimensionality is way more valuable than billions.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for that, Mutaga.
That's right on.
This is right on, because the more he tries to amass those billions, right, the more if it's true that it's in giving that we receive, then in taking we lose.
Yeah.
And what we lose of ourselves is what creates that big hole in our heart.
Yeah.
And that's what gets us on that hamster wheel and that downward spiral of needing more and more and more and more. And they're in Buddhism, in Tibetan Buddhism, they have an expression called hungry ghosts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know that the hungry ghost is someone who is dying of thirst, and they're being dehydrated and they're dying of thirst, and they find an oasis.
Yeah.
And they drink the water from the oasis, and the water burns them.
Yes.
And just dehydrates them. For them, water becomes like vinegar, becomes like acid.
Yeah, what I want to add to that is these people can do charities and give all this material stuff away, but they've already become vampires for that internal. That's what makes them black magicians, is that they're sucking on that, and they can't reverse that because they're blocking out any awareness of that. And so they're drawing in, like vampires, all this energy to create the wealth, and they think it's all out there. So they give their wealth away, and it does nothing to change anything.
It does not.
Right.
Exactly.
It doesn't balance out the equation, no. But they do. They desperately try to do that once they reach a certain age, and some of them they go, oh shit, I can't take it with me. Now it's time to give it away.
Well, and they feel better for one day, and then they're back to square one day.
Because you know what? At that point, them giving it away is trying to fill the same hole, but it doesn't work.
Yes, exactly.
I will say this, with the comment of having a sharp focus bring back into the inner world. Is that possible? At least that's the question that he's trying to imply. I'd say most likely not. And that's because that focus that's being used there, it's still relevant for the inner world, but not that kind of sharp focus, because that kind of sharp focus only works out there. It's always going to be something that needs to be fixed by being sharp at it.
Okay, you know what I would say still? I would say I can't comment on that. It's beyond my pay grade.
Like you can
because quite honestly, it looks like that, but we don't know who this soul is and what that soul is capable of.
Of course. But what I'm saying here is that the inner world, the way to work on the inner world is to have that focus. You're not saying that these billionaires can't come back to working on their innermost. What I'm saying is that they can't work back on the innermost using that sharp focus that he's talking about. It has to be a focus, but not that sharp focus. It has to do sharpness, but not the kind that they're talking about, that they're using out there to fix things.
Well, you can't use black magic to get that inner connection.
Like you need a very broad thing.
Let's I know exactly what Murphy is saying. Okay. I know exactly what Murphy is saying. Let's see if we can't get some kind of okay. So here's our billionaire. Okay.
Right.
All right. Now we're gonna call this the right hand path, and we're gonna call this the left hand path.
Right.
Okay. Now, our billionaire, let's assume, because what Wolfgang is saying is that in theory, this is a inside of this billionaire, right? He's got energy, right? And that energy, you can feel that. People can feel that when they encounter him. That's one of the reasons why he's so successful in business, because he's got inside of him is an innermost being, okay, and his innermost being may be at a very high level, okay, which means he has a lot of energy, has a lot of potential consciousness. Now, what Murphy is saying is on the left-hand path, we have his mechanical, right? His mechanical mind. And other faculties and rational mind and cleverness, etc. And so that takes all of this energy and focuses it
Yes.
a certain way,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
But this is the way that it does this, and it conditions,
Yes.
okay, this focus. It conditions his consciousness.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, earlier, Wolfgang was saying about it's like having goggles, or it's like having a certain kind of lens, right? And that lens, the mechanicity of that lens changes and conditions that focus. And Murphy says it makes it, or Mutaga says it makes it sharp,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's we put that in quotation marks. This is a sharp, externalized, but what I would say is that the word that I would use, sharp meaning pointed.
Well, yeah, and I would convert the word sharp to emptiness. That's the sharpness of it.
Okay, I think you're bringing something else into the picture that
Okay, I'm sorry.
But that's okay. That's the emptiness that you're talking about is here. The emptiness that you're talking about is here, because
Okay.
the more his energy, the more of himself he puts into this lens and this
Yes.
path on the left-hand path, okay, the more he's using up that, and he's making that hole bigger, because
Yes.
his potential, his heart that comes from his higher self, is being
Yes.
squandered and being spent on all this stuff. But the
Okay.
pointedness of it
Yes.
is deterministic.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
That to me, that is the sharpness of it. That what I see is the sharpness of it.
Okay.
If there is such
now,
a thing as sharp. Okay, sorry.
Now, the option was
Yes.
what Mutaga is saying. What if, and what Murphy is saying was, what if he applied that energy and that focus, that consciousness, on the right-hand path inside of himself?
Yes.
Now, there is no lens.
Okay.
There is no lens here. You see?
No. Yes.
There is no conditioning. In fact, it's the it's the removal of conditioning. And so
Okay.
now, through that lens, he can access, and he can, but not, let's call it the alpha and the omega, or
Yes.
the infinity, right? But
Yes.
he's not doing this for what he can materially gain. So there's there is, how to say, there is no point,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
This is why Murphy says it's not sharp, it's soft. And Wolfgang, you like to use this word also. And it's
Yeah.
not deterministic, it's allowing.
Exactly. But there's a
Okay,
sharp
it's surrender.
because the sharpness belongs on the other side. It's just a seeing. It represents a seeing, a clarity, which
That's
is the
right.
same.
And
thing,
so all
right?
there is
It's
the
clarity.
third eye.
Yes.
It's not a lens. This is what
No.
seeing. This
Yes.
is the seeing, right?
Exactly.
But this is very much a projection.
Yeah, and you know, like when we look over there, we tend to categorize it in terms of sharpness and you know, but when you move to the other side, those words are not really appropriate.
The only thing I have to say, right, is the reason why I don't like the word sharp, because sharp implies a doing, that you are in the world to do this, to make this focus a doing.
Exactly.
But the doing
exactly.
is
But what I'm showing here is this is the worldly, okay, billionaire
doing. Yeah.
left-hand path,
Yeah.
which demands that sharpness, that doingness. So there's another way we can describe all this.
Yes.
And that is this. This is wait. This is a human doing,
Yes.
and this is a human
Being.
being. done.
Done. Really done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is different from human doing.
That's
It's
it.
a being done. Yeah.
That's it. Not like you, as a human being, you can't be sharp. It's just you're not doing sharp. It's all I'm trying to tell.
Well, and the human doing, it can't be a human doing done. It's not, that doesn't work that way over there. Well, you can be possessed. You can be possessed to do.
So Mutaga says that makes a lot of sense. Now, what's important to remember is that the energy and the consciousness is still the same.
Yeah.
You know, the energy and the consciousness hasn't changed. What's changed is one is modified, it's conditioned by ego, and the other one is utilized by the being, by the true self.
Right. And the way across is through pain and suffering, is the emptiness. Right?
You know, this emptiness longs for the only thing that can truly satisfy, truly fill it, and that's love.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you know that love, it's better to give than to receive. So on this path, the person who focuses on the right-hand path, in the world, it's not all this ego shit about what I can gain and what I can take.
Yes.
Okay. Now it's about what I have to give.
Yes. But you have,
and then you don't need a lens for that. You don't need the sharpness for that. You don't need the pointedness and the deterministic, because all this softness and allowing, all of that gets transferred over here.
Okay.
And now, so everything that you've done here, you now just become a conduit. You just become a spigot, and then it just flows through you. The formlessness, formless, which is selfless, moves into, through, and out of form. And that form we call Attila, that form we call Wolfgang, that form we call Murphy, that form we called Mutaga.
There's 2 points. Yeah, can I make 2 points? One, I just want to say the heart, it can't just be love. It needs to be unconditional love. It needs to be that.
Okay, so fair enough. But that's selflessness.
Yes. Because any other kind of love, like screwing or whatever,
No. But that's okay. Yeah. We're not talking about romantic love. We're not talking. Yeah, we're talking about unconditional love. That's right.
We're not talking about necessarily sexual love, although it does pull itself into it because it's an energetic thing that pulls itself. But it's unconditional, which means it's the highest form.
Right, and it's important to say that now because we just had the conversation about how things came from introspective to the feeling, right? So we had to get rid of the feeling and go back to love.
Yes.
Real love, not feeling, because feeling could easily be feeling love. It's not that.
But the point, so the word here is everything on this side is conditional consciousness, right? The conditioned consciousness. So everything on this side is conditional unless it's coming from the unconditional selflessness, right? The love, the unconditional love, of true self that then flows through us. That is the only thing that can fulfill the hole in one's heart. It cannot be fulfilled from anything that we take through the left-hand path. It can only be fulfilled by the formless, selfless, unconditional love moving into, through, and out of form.
Yes. Okay. So what are the 3 arrows? Let me get that right, because there's something I'm feeling from that, is that's what I've been trying to say all along by not judging, because that looks impossible, but it happens more often than we realize.
Which part looks impossible?
It's called transformation. The arrows, the colorful arrows on the left side of the drawing.
Here?
Yeah. What are those arrows? These are
transmutation,
are they not?
No, formless, selfless, unconditional love,
Yes.
moving into,
And
through, and
Yes.
out of form. So out
Okay.
into the world, into for others.
Yes. But it's not just charity. It's like an
No,
unconditional.
no. It might be,
Yeah,
it
might
but
be,
that's an oversimplification.
yes.
This is
Right.
we're talking about vocation. We're talking about life's work here.
Yes, and you know what? When we talked about Elon Musk, I said I don't know. Maybe he's capable of that. That's all I was trying to say. That's it.
No. And what I was saying is that I know that he's capable of it.
Yes,
Everyone on this level, everyone on that level, okay,
That's
is
all
capable of it, because the only thing that's allowing him to amass what he's
Yeah.
doing through ego is that same capacity. This is why Mutaga said, what if he directed it this way?
exactly.
What if he directed it in the other direction? And what
Well,
we're saying is, yeah, if he did that, but then that would completely transform him
Yeah.
and everything that he's doing, and he'd be going through the world being this fountain of unconditional love. But
No,
at the
okay.
moment, he is
Yeah.
not exactly that.
I agree. So
That's
I
all.
would call him Gandalf the Grey. Okay, and I would say I'm still Gandalf the Grey, but I'm working my way to being Gandalf the White. Okay, and I see Elon Musk as being a Gandalf. I see him as being a wizard. Okay, I do see that. All these guys are wizards, and they're
And
most of them
all
are
I'm saying is, you see him as
Yeah.
Gandalf the Grey.
Yeah.
I see Elon as Saruman.
Okay, and yeah, I think there's a I think Gandalf the Grey is also Saruman. That's what I'm saying. He has the potential, and he actually that's within Gandalf the Grey. That's kind of what I want to say. I want to incorporate. So I see that darkness in myself of being Saruman, and it
So-
exists inside me as Gandalf the Grey. Okay.
You know who another really good archetype, or another really good character to describe this and make it very clear is Darth Vader in
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi,
Yes.
because Anakin Skywalker is still inside of him,
Yes.
but everything that he does, he serves the Empire, and he's a
Yes.
Dark Lord, he's a Sith. But
Yes.
it doesn't mean that he can't be redeemed, but his
Yeah.
redemption does come at the cost of his life.
Yeah.
That's what
Okay.
makes him a tragic figure, right? A tragic
The
hero.
glass is half full.
Vader is a tragic hero, just like Macbeth.
Yeah, the glass is half full is only I'm a hopeless romantic. That's what it is,
Sure.
right? Yeah. You could
But
say you're a hopeless romantic. I would say yes, guilty, right? But you can't really say I'm naive, because I see everything you're saying and I agree with everything you're saying, right?
No.
I'm just a hopeless romantic.
The goal is to be able to provide a framework, because unfortunately we are living in a time where we have all been conditioned to be very intellectual and understand things. But if we can see it, and we can see the mechanics of it, if we can see the framework and say, yes, absolutely, Mutaga, there is a way for him to apply himself to his inner world and his higher self, there is a way that he could do that. But I also agree 100% with Murphy that it's not a sharp, deterministic way. He cannot take the same tools that he uses on the left-hand path and apply those same tools in the same way on the right-hand path, because if he does that, then he really will turn himself into a black magician.
I agree 100%. Can I point out something? De Bono talks about lateral thinking, and we talk about jack of all trades, master of all trades. It's not that simple to take mastery and just shove it over into another area and you're a master. There has to be something you have to completely forego the framework of the mastery, but there's a pattern inside of that you keep, and that puts you ahead of somebody else who doesn't have mastery. So there's an
But-
inner element of a pattern of how things work.
But
And now
there's-
you have to apply a new language to that for that particular mastery. And there are some basics that you need to, for sure, you need to have in place before you can do that. Right?
So there's one other thing that I want to point out to everyone watching is that you can see how similar the two paths are,
Yeah.
and that the deception can be so subtle, because really when you look at this, the deception, let me try to pick a different color so it stands out here. I haven't
Yeah.
used green yet. Actually, I'm gonna use this purple red thing. Okay. The deception can be inserted right here, right? That's the lens. So, and that's perception.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
so the conditioning, the perception, this
Yes.
lens,
Yeah.
this lens can be belief
Yeah. Or winning formula, right?
or
We
winning formula, or
Yeah.
but so because everything else
Yeah.
is the application of oneself, right?
Yeah.
We cannot underestimate, and we
No.
cannot overthink deception.
Overthink. Now, remember I said we can't afford, in the quickening, we can't afford to believe anymore. We can't afford winning formulas. We need
That's
to
right.
move on that now. We need to be more what you call knowing. And we have to develop the art of knowing. It's not I know, it's knowing, because it's constantly adjusting itself. And once you become really familiar and you center yourself in knowing, you then walk on water and you begin to develop faith in your capacity and ability to do that. But before you can have faith, you have to know that the guardrails are up, and the observation of observing yourself is at least initiated. Okay, well, nothing's perfect, but at least we've got it set up to move forward. And once set up that way, you're able to process new information almost instantaneously. You're ready to move forward without, getting bogged down again all the time.
All right, so we've passed the 3-hour mark.
Oh, have we? Oh my God!
I wanna point out to everyone. First of all, I want to thank everybody who participated today. I want to thank your comments and so on. In the future, I encourage you, if you can, with a microphone or a camera or even your phone, your camera phone, feel free to join the conversation. I think that when we look at something like this, that came out directly out of everyone's participation, right? Everyone's comments, right. Everyone's questions, or everyone's, and out of that, we pull together, and of course that billionaire's comments and Matt Walsh's comments.
Yeah,
this is, I think, a useful or more interesting workshop as opposed to just a lecture, or opposed to a podcast where we have a bunch of scripted questions. Like this today was not produced, right?
No,
today was spontaneous.
We're creating.
Right? This was organic, right? What's the word you're using, Wolfgang?
I'm saying we're creating. We're creating. Well, it's an energy of creating, and it's creating. It just created, right? And so, yeah.
If I'm of course. You can leave comments on Facebook, or you can leave comments on this video in YouTube after the fact, once it's posted, or you can leave your feedback right now if you want on in the comments. If you guys thought today's creative workshop, because I call this a workshop, right? I come at it from a theater background when you get a bunch of people together and they start improvising crazy ideas, and all of a sudden something starts to gel, and then the collective creates something, and something is born out of that shared experience, but everybody bringing their own unique experience and perspectives that no one person alone could have done on their own.
Right.
And if you guys like where we ended up today, if you think that it was valuable, if you think that you learned something about the nature of deception and the nature of truth, and how even rich and powerful and successful people, how they are deceived and by what are they deceived, and so on, everything that we talked about, then let me know, and then I'll try to continue this format in the future, and I'll try to invite others to come and participate in different ways. And you all are welcome to participate. Benjamin says, "Thank you so much, sirs, for today's workshop. The creativity is amazing and beneficial." Well, thanks, Benjamin, and thank you for your, as always, thank you for your input. Thank you for your contributions. Because Benjamin is always Johnny on the spot with biblical quotes as well. If we ever need anything like some backup from the Bible, he's right there. He can tell you exactly what.
But he's not only the word; he's the spirit of the Bible.
Yeah. But he's able to share that very often as so. But listen, thank you all. Thank you all for taking the time to be here. I think this was, it is what it is, and sometimes creation with a group can be a little messy. But the beauty of it is that when you start cleaning up the mess, it's what you find is like an artist who's first has to sketch out his design, and the sketch looks really messy. But when you start picking out where the hard lines are out of the millions of lines in the sketch, and you start the definition emerges. And then as we hone in on that, and Wolfgang, how many times did we use the word refinement today?
Yeah.
And we refine it and we refine it and we refine it. The overall image or the final construct, what comes out of it, is so much better off for the sketch. Because if you've ever tried drawing something by drawing one line, it's shit.
One word we didn't mention today was to create the space. We first created the space for this to take place in, right? And that's kind of like, what would we call it? A space of love, right?
Sure,
so
absolutely.
That element had to be also present, which is the unconditional love element. Ever how lightly and softly, that is the core of the space, and its ability to be creative, right?
And Mutaga 33 says, very inspiring and interesting exchange. Thank you all. Thank you, Mutaga, and thank you for your contributions, and particularly to that one question about, can he apply himself? Can the billionaire apply all of that energy and focus and sharpness within himself? What would be the effect? Because that really is what inspired, to where we ended up. So thank you for that. Thank you for listening to that within yourself and following through on that.
Okay.
If there's no other questions or comments, I want to thank everybody once again. I want to thank Wolfgang and Murphy for joining us. And I hope everybody has a good week. And I hope to see you all next week. And until then, as always, inferential peace. Take care, everyone.
Okay.